Saturday baseball. Dodgers and Cubs about to get going from Wrigley Field. So with that, we send it out to the guys calling today's game, Matt Vasgersian and John Smoltz.
Well, Ryan, it's the 2014 season's final summer Saturday and a gorgeous September afternoon for baseball in Chicago. As Fox Saturday Baseball welcomes you to historic Wrigley Field for the postseason-bound Los Angeles Dodgers and the homestanding Chicago Cubs. On the next-to-last weekend of the season, the Dodgers have clinched at least a wild-card spot with the hopes that a division title could be right around the corner. L.A. beginning the day 3.5 up on the Giants with only 8 games left in the regular season. With that, we welcome you inside the broadcast booth with John Smoltz, Matt Vasgersian. Two teams, John, at this point in the season with very different roads ahead of them for this part of the season on out. The Cubs playing for 2015 and beyond, perhaps. The Dodgers playing for right now.
Yeah, their future is right now. Last year they started out slow. They won the division going away. Couldn't get by the Cardinals. This year, high expectations to get to the World Series. They also started out slow. They don't have anything locked down from the division, but their rotation's in a little bit of question. Other than Clayton Kershaw, they've got to get the ship righted. For the Cubs, unfortunately, they're not in the mix, but the future is bright. A lot of young stars that they're hoping with the young roster that they could put a competitive team on the field for 2015 and 16.
Dodgers have won the first 2 games of the series in rather lopsided fashion, hoping to continue that momentum on this gorgeous Saturday afternoon. We're back with lineups in the opening pitch from Wrigley next.
Who did get in the trade for DeBron?
And you never know what you're going to find here in this part of the world on a Saturday afternoon at about 10:30, 10:40 Central Time. A newlywed couple exchanging nuptials on a rooftop outside of right field. Why not? It's like a Fox reality show and a sporting event all in one. It's time for the Cubs to take the field. A gorgeous afternoon so far for baseball, though we are told there is rain in the forecast. And the Dodgers, for one, certainly hopeful that Mother Nature doesn't interfere on their plans to conquer the NL West in the next couple of days. Let's get you right to Don Mattingly's Dodgers starting lineup, brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. A pair of 2014 All-Stars set the table in D. Gordon and Yasiel Puig. Four-time All-Star and NL RBI leader Adrian Gonzalez bats number 3. The red-hot Matt Kemp is in the 4 spot today. Hanley Ramirez, Justin Turner, and Scott Van Slyke bat 5 through 7. Drew Butera spells A.J. Ellis behind the plate today. And Roberto Hernandez bats number 9. It is the left-hander Felix Doubront on the mound for Chicago today, making his 4th start as a Cub since the deal that brought him over from Boston. In Boston, the numbers were a little more discouraging than the way he has performed here at the friendly confines. He's been very good with a 1.50 ERA in a small sample size, 18 innings of work.
Yeah, what a difference a year makes. You're talking about one of the valuable pieces of the World Series run. He pitched out of the pen, and now he's trying to be part of the rebuild here in Chicago. For Felix Doubront, he's going to have to keep the ball down in the zone. Looks like the wind's blowing out, and he'll have his work cut out for him if the ball elevates at all today.
Well, the way the first 2 games of this series have gone, John, and you and I were talking about this earlier, they really haven't been contested after the first portion of the day. And that is to speak of game 1 of the series. Thursday, the Dodgers score an 8-4 win, where 8 players drive in exactly 1 run. Just the 4th time in Dodger franchise history since they moved west that they've had a box score like that. And then yesterday they had Clayton Kershaw on the mound, a big 3-run home run for Matt Kemp in the 1st, and it was kind of over before it even began. Underway this afternoon, and Felix Doubront's first pitch of the day is in for strike 1. D. Gordon trying to convert on a notable hitting streak this afternoon. He's batted safely in 12 in a row, which is saying something, considering Don Mattingly has used him a lot down the stretch against left-handed pitching like Felix Doubront. A quick 0-2 count to D. Gordon.
D. Gordon's been pretty stingy. 2 strikes. He's hitting .219, which is a pretty good average when you think about a guy who doesn't walk as much, but he certainly gets on base and causes havoc. For Doubront, he's got a long arm delivery. The timing is the key for him.
Next 0-2 misses up and in, a ball and 2 strikes to D. Gordon.
When he was with Boston, he was having a hard time finding his rhythm, and of course that left field wall in Boston for left-handers will often make life miserable if you don't get the ball down. Same thing here at Wrigley Field. With the wind blowing out, you have to pitch accordingly to the environment.
And Gordon sends a bouncing ball to Watkins at second base, and there's 1 out to start the day.
What's amazing about Wrigley is many people think that the wind blows out more than it blows in, and it's really the opposite. But when it blows out, it's pretty evident to what happens with fly balls. So as a pitcher and a hitter, sometimes it can affect you in an adverse way. As a hitter, you're trying to lift the ball, and as a pitcher, you're trying to force the ball down.
So what kind of day are we in for today? Is it going to be like yesterday where it's flying all around the ballpark?
I think so. If the pitchers make any mistakes, you're going to see it pay for with a few home runs.
1 gone for Yasiel Puig. Puig bunting, catching everybody off guard. A guy who's 11 for 19 in his career at Wrigley Field and has been hitting for power the last couple of weeks, drops down a 1-out bunt to get on base.
Well, you know, the pitcher right here has not doesn't look very active when he gets off the mound, and agile, as they should say, and so he surprises everybody and gives a little. How about that?
So a 1-out base runner now for the National League's RBI leader. 4-time All-Star Adrian Gonzalez has also hit safely in 7 straight ball games. He's been red hot down the stretch, as have many of his lineup mates today. The Dodger lineup has been clicking the last few days for sure. Early opportunity for LA, and the first pitch home to Gonzalez is in for a strike.
Well, this club, of course, has got its superstars, and it's got its opportunity to score runs when it's clicking. First pitch, they love it. Runners in scoring position, they've been outstanding. So look for them to feel out Doubront, see what kind of stuff he has, but to be aggressive early.
Ball and a strike, the count to Adrian Gonzalez. Yeah, the Dodgers are in the midst of a road trip. And by the way, they've got baseball's best road record that has seen a number of blowouts on both sides of the scorecard. They've blown out some opponents, and they've been on the bad end of those lopsided games as well.
It's been kind of a strange year for the Dodgers of late. I think the one thing that you think about this team winning the division currently, but yet there's some question marks surrounding it. There's some health issues that are going to be so huge when you look at this rotation. They got to find something other than Kershaw and Greinke. Ryu is unknown and when he'll be able to come back, but the strength of this club has certainly turned into a little bit of a weakness with one or two guys going down in the rotation. Of course, Josh Beckett did a great job most of the year until he went out.
Well, it really is amazing to think of what was considered an excess for the Dodgers in April. Gonzalez launches a 2-1 pitch to right that has no chance to stay in the park. And just like that, LA has taken a 2-0 lead.
Just about any baseball park. The point we were making early on that if you do not make good pitches and it's not down, see this pitch belt high over the middle of the plate. Well, pretty knee high, but he stays on the pitch, and this is what we could see a lot of them. And the tradition here, usually they're making a quick transfer. If you're a pro out in the outfield, they've got another ball in their pocket that they'll make a quick transfer. But if it's not there, home team, they're throwing it back.
Dude was wearing a Jim Edmonds Cubs jersey. Here's Matt Kemp now. 2-0 LA. Jim Edmonds was here for what, a day and a half? You guys probably got a Mike Piazza Marlins jersey and a Reggie Jackson Orioles jersey back in his house. By the way, for Adrian Gonzalez, as Matt Kemp lays off a breaking ball, that's just the third of his 24 home runs to come against a left-handed pitcher this year.
Well, I don't know how many teams follow this pattern where they go, you see the bubble machine. It wasn't working too well in Colorado. The other team was scoring a lot of runs in Colorado, but I was saying that Colorado, Chicago, I don't know how many teams go Colorado to Chicago, but you're seeing a lot of runs scored in these last two series. I mean, Colorado is evident.
Yeah.
But the ballpark and the wind makes this a Colorado-esque type field when the wind's blowing out.
I mean, that's like running the pitching gauntlet.
Yeah.
A road trip. They started the trip in San Francisco, so a little break there perhaps. Kemp off the end of the bat sends one to first for Rizzo, and with DuBront covering, they get it done just in time in front of the head first slide of Matt Kemp.
LeBron's going to have to work on his cat-like features after he delivers the ball. He did not get over to this base and react very well. You got to have a little bit more tempo than that. Now you see him turn it up in the last gear, and I'll tell you what, it looked like he could have been safe. You don't ever want guys sliding in head first, but he maybe just barely gets it.
So 2 away now with 2 runs in for Hanley Ramirez. Hanley healthy enough to start this afternoon. He has had a right elbow injury that's given him some moments on this road trip where he has required some time away from swinging the bat.
Whether shortstop will be his future position or not past this year, he has provided the power in the shortstop position, only behind Jimmy Rollins and Tulo in Colorado as far as the power numbers from the shortstop. Backup players.
There is no contesting how much better the Dodgers' fortunes are when they have their all-star caliber power hitting shortstop in the lineup. 3 balls and no strikes to him with 2 in and 2 away here in the top half of the first. And there's ball 4.
By his approach, he looked like he had the green light. A lot of 3-0, 3-1 counts are going to be dangerous today because of the opportunity the hitters have. Neither team took batting practice, so which is rare on a day that's blowing out, because you could tell that a lot of hitters wouldn't mind taking BP. That's when you're pitcher and you're shagging, your arm starts feeling a little sore, and maybe you might have to miss a game like today. But it isn't quite as bad as it was earlier in the day. The wind was probably another 5 to 10 miles an hour stronger than it currently is right now.
A 2-out base runner now for Justin Turner, who gets the start at third base today for Juan Uribe.
This guy loves the first pitch, hitting 478 on the first pitch.
And checks his swing on the appeal, the ball and no strikes. You know, at first glance, you look at the standings, you look at the Dodgers and where they are in the West, what they have left, and you know that all these games are important down the stretch. But this afternoon's takes on a little bit more importance for Don Mattingly, as he shared with us before the game, in that with a win here today, he gains some flexibility in how he approaches the next two games. Tomorrow here and then Monday in San Francisco, in terms of his starting pitching staff, because he's got some guys that he'd like to put in place, and more importantly, some bullpen pieces he'd like to sort out. Without a win today, that becomes a little more difficult. They're off to a good start this afternoon, however, as Turner flies to right. Adrian Gonzalez delivering his National League leading 107th and 8th RBIs of the year, and the Dodgers have an early 2-0 advantage. Adrian Gonzalez has given Roberto Hernandez a lead with which to work before he throws his first pitches of the afternoon. 2-run home run by Adrian Gonzalez in the first. Let's take a look at Rick Renteria's Cubs Taco Bell starting lineup. Sometimes you got to live Moss. Chris Coughlin, Javi Baez, and Anthony Rizzo lead things off for Chicago. The outstanding young talent Jorge Soler's in right field, batting number 4. Luis Valbuena and rookie center fielder Arizmendi Alcantara bat 5 and 6. Logan Watkins, John Baker, and Felix Doubront, a trio of left-handed bats, round out the lineup for Chicago. It is the artist formerly known as Fausto Carmona on the mound for the Dodgers this afternoon. Roberto Hernandez making his 8th start since being acquired from the Phillies after the non-waiver trading deadline at the end of July.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey for Roberto Hernandez, and he's hoping to contribute at a high level here down the stretch, and who knows what his role will be come postseason time. But the one thing to watch for Roberto is that front shoulder. He's got a lot of movement. He's got a sinker, and his changeup is a key for him. But if his front shoulder flies open, you're going to see a lot of that and lack of control. Really, his success is going to be on that front shoulder, staying quiet and delivering pitches closer to the heart of the plate.
He's fallen behind Chris Coghlan, 3 balls and no strikes to begin the home first. Coghlan, Baez, and Rizzo for Chicago. Roberto Hernandez was an all-star back in 2010 when he went by the name Fausto Carmona. His best overall season in the big leagues, 13-14 that year as an Indian. And Coghlan sends a ball into the opposite field. That one's well hit. Van Slyke and Puig watch, and it's a 2-1 Dodger lead. 7th of the year for Chris Coghlan.
Well, pitchers beware. You have to be ahead in this ballpark with the wind blowing out, and I mean ahead in the count. If you get into defensive counts, you'll be forced to throw more fastballs. The hitters have confidence that they can go left, right, center on a day like today. So early on, we've seen 2 mistakes. We've seen 2 home runs, and that's just the fact that a hitter knows a fastball's coming. Greg Maddux, who is famous for not only being a Hall of Fame pitcher, but he learned to pitch here mainly because of the wind blowing out. He developed a cutter and then learned to sink the fastball, because Greg Maddux at one time could throw well over 90 miles an hour, and his success rate was not very good for him. So Wrigley Field actually taught him to become the pitcher that he went on to be, that Hall of Fame great pitcher.
Here's Javier Baez now. The exciting young rookie shortstop. And we put that shortstop out there tentatively because the Cubs are loaded with exciting young shortstops. He's the shortstop today. 9 home runs to begin his major league career. And it began with a flourish. Yeah. Called up from AAA Iowa in the early part of August. Homered in his first big league game. And the rest, as they say, as they hope at least, is history for a very bright future.
Yeah, there's no doubting the power that he possesses. But that's the one thing right there in the big leagues that he's going to have to learn to make certain adjustments. He's on a pace to set her historic strikeout record if he were to play all year. And they're just watching and hoping that he can learn to make certain adjustments. He's come in with a flair, and of course he's struck out a lot, but he can hit a lot of home runs. His comp, really, the person that they compare him to would be Gary Sheffield. Gary Sheffield had some waggle and wiggle in his bat, but he did some things mechanically that allowed him to load the bat and make more contact to all parts of the field. His waggle or wiggle, if you will, is a little bit later than Sheffield's, which is not allowing him to catch up on anything up in the strike zone.
Full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes. A lot of moving parts and a tremendous amount of torque generated by that powerful swing.
See, and you see the barrel of the bat, it's pointing at the pitcher a little bit too late. Needs to be getting back towards the hitting zone, but it's his style and it works for him as far as power.
You know, everybody around the Cubs, including the guys in the front office, certainly are aware of the fact that Javi Baez is going to go through a lot of growing pains, not just this year, but next year as well. You know, because Baez is so talented, because Soler is so talented, Castro and Rizzo locked up, and the young shortstop acquired from Oakland in the Samardzija deal, Addison Russell. I think everybody thinks that the Cubs are going to win immediately next year. That might happen, but there's still going to be some growing pains around here. There's a lot of talent, but there still is some work left to be done.
There is, and collectively they strike out too much as a team. Now that's going to change. They'll mature and learn how to adjust, but if you're striking out this much and you have guys around you that have the ability to strike out a lot, you put a lot of pressure on your offense and make it easier for the pitcher.
And a swing and a miss by Javi Baez, 1 away for Hernandez. So that'll bring up 2014 All-Star Anthony Rizzo, who has put together a tremendous overall year, 31 home runs, 73 runs batted in. And the offensive improvement from last year is marked. From 21 dingers last year, his RBI totals up, as is his OPS, one of the largest increases in home runs in all of baseball. And another guy, John, that likes to jump all over the first pitch. A swing and a foul tip here behind 0-1.
Yeah, controlled aggressiveness will work, and it'll cause a pitcher to look at a scouting report and have to face you a little bit differently. But you can see he tried to tie him up in there on a first pitch fastball.
The 31 home runs for Anthony Rizzo is the second highest total in the National League, 6 shy of Giancarlo Stanton of the Marlins, who, as we know, is shut down for the rest of the year.
You see where his hands are, and that really for a pitcher, until they can make adjustments, which he's made really, as you talked about, a lot of adjustments in 1 year, but his hands are out over the plate. So that fastball, that comebacker fastball, is what they're trying to do to tie him up so he can't get his arms extended.
Two balls and 2 strikes now to Anthony Rizzo. It's amazing when you talk about how youth has served in this Cub lineup that Anthony Rizzo, at the age of 25, with only a couple of years of big league service time, is considered one of their leaders. That's lined into center field, a base hit.
There was evidence. Here was evidence of a mistake. You see his hands out over the plate. See, it almost would be a strike if he were to have them lowered and he got hit in that area. But you see him out over the plate. You want the ball down, but see the ball stays up long enough for him to reach it and get that single. So good hitting by Anthony Rizzo, and not the pitch that Roberto wanted to throw, as you saw the catcher wanting the ball down.
A run in, 1 away with a runner aboard, and now Jorge Soler, who has begun his major league campaign, his major league career, by hitting safely in 15 of 17 games. That includes a 2-for-4 yesterday in Game 2 of this series, and he takes a fastball for a strike. Of all the young Cub, still considered prospects that are playing for the major league team here in September, the thought is that Soler is the closest to being a finished product. That's not to say he is finished, but there is a little bit more of an experienced presence, according to Rick Renneria and his staff, with Soler than there would be, say, for Javier Baez.
Well, he certainly has come out with that first view glimpse of a guy that is hitting just about everything anybody throws up. Starts with an open stance and closes up, and his feet are quiet. I mean, this is a guy that's confident in what he can do. And, you know, it's always interesting in September when the fans get a look at their future, and whether it's a Baez start where he struck out a lot, showing a lot of power, or a Soler start where he has hit with average and driving in runs. And in a short example, it's still about making adjustments. And as we talked to the manager, he said he's looking forward to next year and where these guys can be, and an offseason of feeling like they belong.
It's a pleasure to have with us, as always, FoxSports.com senior columnist J.P. Morosi. And J.P., I know that other players, in fact personnel around the league, have taken notice of Jorge Soler.
Yeah, Matt, just the other day in the Dodgers clubhouse, Matt Kemp was saying he really marveled earlier this week at the way Soler was taking close pitches. If you're taking close pitches this early in your career, a very, very good sign.
Sticking around with a foul ball into the seats, and it's still 2-2. Yeah, taking close pitches is something that I think came a little harder for Matt Kemp in particular. So one could understand the observation that Matt notices a guy doing something that even he was unable to accomplish. Here's the next 2-2. A full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes. And Hernandez not getting off to the kind of start, I think, John, that Don Mattingly would have preferred. Again, we can't emphasize the point enough. Getting a quality start out of Roberto Hernandez today was crucial in order to allow Mattingly to do what he wants to do with his rotation the next couple of days.
Yeah, a lot of things are going to be a determining factor. The amount of games he is up before he goes into the San Francisco series, and of course the amount of innings that Roberto is able to give him. He's been short his last 2 games.
Rizzo runs, and Soler fouls that one away. Still full 3-2.
And so as a pitcher, you kind of know the circumstances. You know you got to take the ball and try to give them depth. Last game, the guy who always gives you depth had to work too hard to get through 5 innings in Kershaw, so they had to take him out after 5 innings. And it's been kind of a battle for the bullpen to cover up a lot of innings that, quite frankly, didn't go well in Colorado in some lopsided games. But with the September call-ups, you have enough arms to at least fill that void.
It's taken Hernandez 26 pitches to get his 1 out of the game, his first. And with Rizzo running again, Soler puts it in play to the left side. Ramirez got only 1 chance, and that's on the hitter-runner. Runner at second now with 2 away. You know, another thing to keep in mind today is that with weather approaching, and we were told that it was somewhere between 2 and 4 Central Time, local time, that Mother Nature was going to wet it up a little bit. The Dodgers would love to maintain a lead here today. There's thought of having to play a continued game or break things up with a pregnant pause also messes with the plans the Dodgers have in terms of pitching the next couple of days. Here's Luis Valbuena now with a man at second.
Oh, it's interesting what happened with the arch rival Giants here not too long ago. A loophole in the rule allowed them to finish that game because they couldn't get the tarp on the field. I would love to see baseball change the weather shortened game to all games being completed to its entirety, so we eliminate any kind of that scenario playing forward in the future. Don't know if that's going to happen, but one would say that the right decision was made for the Giants' purpose, and having lost that game after 5 innings because they could not get the tarp on the field would have been and could have been very damaging at that time to their playoff chances of winning the division.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of examples of that this year. Another notable one came in New York. A tarp malfunction, or the Yankees ground crew, their inability to get the field covered in time, led to a rain-shortened Yankee victory on a night when they would have had to deal further with Yu Darvish.
Yeah, 1-0.
2 balls and a strike to Luis Valbuena. Trying to convert on a modest 3-game hitting streak this afternoon and pick up a base runner in scoring position with 2 away. Already 2-1 Dodgers here in the bottom half of the first.
Valbuena had split some time with Mike Olt, but has taken over really the duties at third base for the most part.
Almost hit him, misses inside, and it's to 3-1 now. We'll be paying attention not only to the Dodgers and Cubs today, of course, but the Tigers and Royals in a big one in Kansas City after the Justin Verlander show yesterday completely shut down the Kansas City offense and put a little bit more distance between those 2 AL Central rivals atop the poll. There's ball 4. That game, by the way, Tigers and Royals, is underway scoreless in the 3rd. Max Scherzer and James Shields this afternoon. A terrific matchup and a chance for Kansas City to get it back down to a half game if they can win today at home.
Yeah, pretty vital game for them. They've been playing a bunch of those, and it gets very difficult as a team when you're having to play all those kind of games. Your offense doesn't score a lot of runs, and you rely heavily on your guy to deliver a big victory because they have to at least salvage 1 game of these 3, if not take these next 2 games.
Dodger pitching coach Rick Honeycutt comes out to chat with Hernandez. Not what Don Mattingly wanted to see today. Well, you can almost feel the weather changing too, John. It's darkened a bit. Wind is starting to change directions. And if the weatherman holds true, Mother Nature will play a role this afternoon.
I mentioned Roberto Hernandez. Key is that front side, and his front shoulder has gotten him leaking his fastball away from where he intends to throw it. And when your front side gets too aggressive, meaning it's working too hard to get to deliver the baseball, it affects the the location of where you're trying to throw. You've got to really rely on your mechanical front side to be quiet.
Here's Arizmendi Alcantara now with runners at first and second and 2 away.
Some guys with their front shoulder will leak towards first base. He raises up a little bit and he has to stay right there. A changeup, you're apt to do that a little better than you will a fastball because you know it's a change of speed. You don't have to throw it hard. Fastball, your tendency is sometimes to overthrow it.
0-2. Alcantara, one of the versatile young Cubs who has made starts in both the infield and outfield this year. 44 starts in center, 18 starts at second base. And you could put that description out there on a handful of Cub players. Fly ball into right. And a chance for Matt Kemp to retire the side. One does come back for the Cubs on the leadoff home run by Chris Coghlan. Only an inning gone. It's already 2-1 Dodgers. Cravings menu at Taco Bell. Live Más. A reminder, Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball, presents the walk-off. Great walk-offs are waiting at foxsports.com/Budweiser. Grab some buds. Grab some buds on a rooftop here at Wrigleyville. 2-1 Dodgers as we begin the top of the second inning. Scott Van Slyke, Drew Butera, and Roberto Hernandez. Bottom third of the order for Los Angeles. Felix Doubront yielded the 2-run home run to Adrian Gonzalez in the first. A run comes back on the Chris Coghlan homer in the bottom of the inning. And it's already starting a light rain outside here at Wrigley Field at this hour.
Scott Van Slyke, of course, loving left-handed pitchers. Slugging percentage.
Yeah, Don Mattingly loving what he has in terms of weaponry. Off the bench in particular, not only is Van Slyke dynamite against lefties, John, as you mentioned, a .604 slugging percentage against southpaws. As he waves and misses here to strike out. He's been very good off the bench. He is one of Mattingly's favorite pinch hitting weapons this year as well.
He has struggled with that pitch right there. Not many guys can throw it up there and get it above the danger zone, but if he gets one area that you can get him, and that's that pitch higher than high that a lot of guys don't go after.
One gone for Drew Butera now. Butera handling Roberto Hernandez this afternoon, giving A.J. Ellis a well-deserved day away from it, and takes a strike.
Interesting note on Butera. Of course, offensively, the catchers have not really done much for the Dodgers, but he has caught 2 no-hitters. A lot of guys get a chance to catch 1. He's caught 2.
All right, I know he caught Beckett's this year. What was the first?
Liriano, maybe?
In Minnesota, where he began his career. There you have it. Sharply struck to Valbuena at third, and 2 quick outs for Dubront in the second.
Dubrant's going to be interesting. Sorry, man. Going to be interesting to see how he fares here. Of course, we documented how tough it was for him at Fenway, but he's got the capability of pitching down in the zone with a changeup, cutter, fastball, and it's on that rhythm. Seeing if he's already felt more comfortable. He's talked about pitching here versus pitching in Boston.
Yeah, the comparison's often made between Wrigley and Fenway. Of course, the 2 old vanguard ballparks in their respective leagues. But the experience was quite different for Dubront at the Fens. He's got good numbers everywhere except Fenway Park. And I'm quite sure that when Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer put him on their wish list to become a Cub, they were aware of that. Okay, let's get our guy out of his home environs. Will be a lot better, as he was here in the second with a couple of strikeouts. To the bottom of the inning, still 2-1 Dodgers. By the Judge from Warner Brothers Pictures, in theaters October 10th.
Aegis Curtis, it's light green right now. Further stuff out, so maybe a couple more hours.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Thank you.
The dreaded window. And why is it that every time we're here at Wrigley and you hear a weather update, you think of noted Cubs fan Bill Murray in Caddyshack as the brilliant Carl Spangler? I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for another couple of hours. And that is the case here this afternoon. 2-1 Los Angeles. Bottom of the second inning, bottom of the order here for Rick Renteria's Cubs in a trio of left-handed batters: Logan Watkins, John Baker, and Felix Dubront.
Logan Watkins having a rough inning in the big rally for the Dodgers. First game of this series. Had a couple chances on a double play ball and knock one down, and trying to make up for it really with some offense today if he can drive the ball in the air.
Another versatile young Cub. Played every position at AAA Iowa this year except for pitcher and catcher. Getting on that time of the year when guys think about, hey, I want to play all 9 today. Doesn't happen in the big leagues as much, but the end of the minor league seasons, you see quite a bit of that. 2 balls and 2 strikes, the count from Roberto Hernandez, trying to bounce back after a big pitch count in the first. A home run, a single, a base on balls, and deep counts for everybody he faced, all 6 Cubs that batted. On the ground for D. Gordon. And Watkins is retired for the first out. A win here for Los Angeles, by the way, moves them to a season best 23 games over 500. Best road record in Major League Baseball, and a team apparently bulldozing its way into the postseason. But it's worth revisiting a few of those potential cracks, John, that we kind of alluded to when we went on the air. Here's John Baker now with 1 away.
Yeah, they really do have some issues. For a team that was built to go to the World Series and everything looked good for a long time, their top 3 starters were rolling. They've had each one of them go on the DL this year, and now Ryu again missing some starts. It puts them a little bit in concern of what to do and how to get through the regular season, hopefully to set up for winning the division. Now they've got 2 races going on. They're trying to maybe catch the Nationals for best record, and of course trying to win the division. But piecing that together, trying to figure out how that's going to happen past Greinke and Kershaw, has been a real puzzle for Don Mattingly.
Swing and a miss by Baker to 2-1 now.
I maintain when you have 3 studs working in the right order, that's a recipe for success in the postseason, because you really only need 3. You're going to use a spot guy, a 4th guy every so often.
Into the opposite field, Van Slyke back and makes the catch on a well hit ball by John Baker.
And then the worst case scenario would be if they had to play a wild card game, and then that throws a wrench in everything. So winning the division for the Dodgers is more important than any other team, I would argue, in the National League. And so that's what Don Mattingly is focused on. He knows he's got Kershaw going against the Giants, and anytime he's pitched the last 2 to 3 months, it spells wins. So you feel good about that. And the Giants obviously have to sweep, or it looks like they might have to sweep the Dodgers to get back into that kind of scenario to win the division.
0-1 the count to Felix Dubron. Yeah, that setback loss by the Giants last night in San Diego was a costly one in terms of the division race. Tim Hudson had another challenging start. Too much Adrisimar Despaigne and San Diego Padre baseball for the Giants yesterday. A 1-2-3 second for Roberto Hernandez as well. Still 2-1 LA. Matt Vasgersian here at Wrigley Field celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Oh, by the way, the friendly confines have never been friendlier for a visiting team. The Dodgers have really liked playing here the last couple of years. The numbers certainly reflect that. As Felix Doubront goes back to work, he'll get the top of the order here in the top of the third. D. Gordon, Yasiel Puig, and Adrian Gonzalez. This part of the lineup spelled the 2 runs in the first. The Gonzalez home run, the guilty party, and there's a shot out into right that drops in for a base hit. You know that he can run. Gordon thinking about second and then thinking better of it, checking up with a leadoff single.
Been a lot of players here that as you look at the third baseman and what he's trying to take away, and of course D. Gordon swings away, and that could have been interesting. Not too many inside the park home runs here, I wouldn't think, unless a scenario like that would have played out with D. Gordon. Although I was a victim of a inside the park home run to Ryan Sandberg down the left field line of all places.
Really?
Yeah. Ball wasn't picked up a couple times by Lonnie Smith out of the tray down there, and he just kept running, and I kept backing up a different base.
There's Yasiel Puig now with Gordon aboard. 63 stolen bases standing off of first base, and Doubront no doubt aware of that.
Doubront is flirting with that 45-degree angle that left-handers have, for which they have to step over towards first base without deceiving the runner before going home.
That base hit by Gordon, by the way, extends his hitting streak to 13. And now we can think about another one, because he's got 7 consecutive games with a multi-hit line, and a chance to extend that one this afternoon as well.
Well, for a team that Don Mattingly has got him in first place, his lineup has not been a prototypical lineup where you just go, here it is every day. All the way starting in Australia, when you and I had the privilege of doing those games, he didn't know who his second baseman was going to be. It was going to be platoon by best. It was going to be, you know, a platoon situation. He had hoped somebody would take it over, and that's exactly what Gordon did. He took it over and changed the face of this lineup and how it can manipulate itself by his speed into more run production for the Dodgers, and he has been a valuable commodity for the Dodgers this year.
There he goes. Throw from Baker, not even close. D. Gordon's major league leading 64th stolen base of the year.
And that's a different dynamic that they're going to have in the postseason that they really didn't have other than Puig, if you think about it. And this is a fastball up that he just outruns the baseball in the combination of the pitcher and catcher release. And I think they're going to take a look at it and see if he popped up off the bag, which he's done a couple times. And the infielders today are taught to keep the tag on the base runner throughout the slide. And they got the word that he maybe had popped off. He gets in so fast, he slides in, see the little hop, and then the feet switch the base. Right here, his front foot hits it, then jumps up in the air, and whether or not that time frame of which
I don't see it, Schmaltzy. I don't see it. You know what? And I can't stand these ticky-tacky things here. I get it. You know, you're supposed to maintain contact with the base. If you pop off for that nanosecond, the videotape's going to reflect that. But Gordon is so clearly in front of the throw. These kind of challenges, in my mind, really start to bug.
Yeah, and I can see both sides of it. The only problem I have here is he does not keep the tag on long enough. You see him take the glove off of him.
Right.
And that's what evidently might cost the Cubs. He's got to keep the tag the entire time. This is something that's going to change now, as you talked about, the new. We can't really see the transition of that back foot or not.
In my mind, it's not conclusive, but they're taking a look at this back at Chelsea Market in New York. while the crew awaits the decision. By the way, just as an aside, and I'm not saying this is a personal thing with the Cubs, they have been frequent challengers, and good for them. Take advantage of the opportunities that the rules have given you. What I'm saying is, league-wide, something needs to be amended in this particular use of a challenge.
Yeah, they're going to tinker with it in the offseason, I'm sure, and they're going to refine this. They talked about it in the very beginning. This is a work in progress, that we are starting to get back to the technology that exists that other sports have, and that fans at home can see certain plays. The umpires don't have the privilege of seeing it.
Here we go. Here's our decision, and safe is the call. The original call is confirmed. So it is D. Gordon's major league leading 64th stolen base. Most likely, D. Gordon will finish the season somewhere in between what Davey Lopes did in 1975 and what Juan Pierre did in 2007. And it would be the third highest single season stolen base total in LA Dodger history. He does not have a chance to catch Maury Wills, who stole 104 in 1962. So he's in scoring position now for Yasiel Puig with nobody out.
A couple guys have brought that back. The speed aspect of the game had basically disappeared there for a little while. Billy Hamilton, of course, of the Reds. D. Gordon now. The Royals steal a lot of bases as a team.
Puig got on base with a bunt single in the first and scored in front of the Gonzalez home run. 2 balls and 2 strikes. We talk about how LA has had good fortunes here at Wrigley Field. They've won 9 of 12 here since the start of the 2011 season. And Yasiel Puig sure loves his time here. He's now 12 for 20 here in this ballpark.
You must love the ivy.
Full count to him now, 3-2. Gonzalez waits next. Runner in scoring position with nobody out here in the third. Dubron's payoff pitch skips in the dirt for ball 4. You know, not only does Yasiel Puig like to hit at this ballpark, he had some fun here last August in the right field corner. Take a look at this circus act. August 3rd of last season. That's a catch.
He hit off the pad.
He hit it with his glove.
Oh.
Flipped it back to himself and made the play. It's one that was talked about for quite a while. So here's Gonzalez now with runners at first and second. On the first pitch, a deep drive to left center field, and that one is gone. Two home runs, 5 runs batted in 2 plate appearances this afternoon at Wrigley.
It's an RBI machine. D. Gordon caused some havoc on the bases for Puig when he was up there. Got him to walk, and then the very first pitch. I told you this team is aggressive on first pitches, high averages, and they're showing it. 348 was Gonzalez on the first pitch, and he just squares it up. Doesn't try to pull it, goes the other way, and of course with the ballpark playing the way it is, that 368 is very short.
0-2 now to Matt Kemp. 5-1 Los Angeles. Adrian Gonzalez took over the Major League RBI lead from Mike Trout with his home run in the first. He has added 3 more here in the third. Trout plays later tonight. That's a pretty good story brewing in Southern California as Matt Kemp swats a base hit into left and maybe more. He'll pull up around first. Still nobody out in the inning. I'm going to say this out loud without having done the proper research first, so I apologize to the folks in research and development back at the Fox Sports studios and in our production truck. Has an Angel and a Dodger ever vied for the Major League RBI crown before Trout and Adrian Gonzalez this year? I'm going to guess and say no. Because it's pretty rare for a Dodger to win even a National League RBI crown. It's happened only twice.
I like your chances, Matt.
You're on board with that one?
Yeah. Which, therefore, if I'm on board with it, I don't like your chances.
0-1 the count to Hanley Ramirez. Yeah, Tommy Davis in 1962, and then more recently Matt Kemp in 2011, the only Los Angeles Dodgers to lead the National League in runs batted in. And it would seem on this afternoon that Adrian Gonzalez is stamping his name on becoming a third. 1-1 the count to Hanley. There are a few things in play for Adrian Gonzalez today. He's never had a 3-home run game in his career.
That's a pitch DeBront's going to have to be successful. He's got to move the ball around. He's getting beat on balls away that they've elevated in the air. He hasn't had the rhythm of his cutter changeup working the way he would like, and of course getting in trouble with the walk. And really, he'd rather not see Gonzalez anymore.
I would say that's a safe bet.
So we've seen a lot of counts that have been in the hitter's favorite 3-1, and that's just a recipe that you don't want to have pitching at Wrigley Field when the wind conditions are the way they are.
And there's ball 4 to Hanley. So Ramirez has been on base via the base on balls in each of his 2 plate appearances today. This is going to get the Cubs bullpen going a lot sooner than certainly what Rick Renneria had hoped for.
Yeah, and a dangerous formula here. When you walk a guy before a guy who's hitting 478 on the first pitch, you can't exactly lay one in there if you're paying attention to the scouting reports. And Justin Turner has absolutely crushed the baseball when he's ahead of the count or first pitch. 478 on the first pitch, 425 when the count is in his favor. So not what you really want as a pitcher when you're not making pitches behind in the count or getting ahead of the Dodgers lineup.
So while Chris Bosio has this conversation with his extended roster on the mound with Felix Doubront, take a look at the arm on the guy that caught the home run ball. Put that all the way back into the infield. Kind of. Guy could play center field for the Phillies. Wait a minute, a young fan catches a home run ball and then throws it all the way back in at Wrigley Field?
I've seen that before.
So runners at first and second now for Justin Turner. And an opportunity for the Dodgers to make another mark toward putting a game out of reach early. That's been the case in each of the first 2 games of the series. And there's Turner, very aggressive on the first pitch per your scouting report.
Yeah, he sure did. He let it go and he missed a good fastball down the middle. He's hitting 417 with runners in scoring position. It's really up and down the lineup. The Dodgers with runners in scoring position have been exceptional this year.
Turner himself, 417 in that capacity. Scott Van Slyke waiting on next. And it's quickly 0-2 to Justin Turner.
Strangely enough, the only thing the Dodgers want to avoid offensively is the bases loaded.
Yeah, what
Some
is
of the
the deal with
worst
that?
numbers you'll ever see with the bases loaded, yet one of the best numbers you'll see with runners in scoring position.
So it has to be fluke. It has to be right. You got to write that off.
I would think so. A lot of offers with the bases loaded on guys. Maybe they get a little too excited.
A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Turner. Yeah, the Dodgers with the bases loaded hit 180 this year. The lowest average by far in baseball. And this is a postseason bound first place team.
No home runs either.
Not one grand slam. Robin Ventura, where have you gone? The only other team in baseball without a grand slam is the Seattle Mariners. But they hit over 300 with the bases loaded. Weird. And yes, that's really nitpicking at a very good offensive team. We get it. Turner sticking around 1-2.
Offensively right now, they're going to have to be very, very good when Greinke and Kershaw don't pitch. And they know it. You know, you don't have to say anything. They realize what the situation is, and they also know when Kershaw's on the mound, it's going to be a happy day.
Well, we might get to an opportunity with the bases loaded in this plate appearance. 2 balls and 2 strikes, the count to Justin Turner. Carlos Villanueva's up in the bullpen. Perhaps the first of a couple. And it's 3-2 now to Turner.
Because of the way that Dubront throws, when he's not throwing well, it can look worse than it is based on the way that he delivers the baseball. It almost is in a nonchalant way. It's just he doesn't know his timing in that 1, 2, 3 count that you have when you throw a baseball.
On the ground to third, Valbuena, and Watkins bobbles the transfer. They do get the out at second base. But the chance for the double play went away on the middle end of that opportunity.
See, this is a tailor-made double play, and it just got caught with the. See, the throw catches him up a little bit, and the transfer was not what you want. See how the ball and the glove catch him up more than he wants, but he wasn't able to get the ball out of the glove and turn a double play. Now, it's never assumed, so you can't give him an error, but that's one could assume.
Yeah, and it's not going to make anybody forget about Tinker to Evers to Chance either. So here is Scott Van Slyke now. A strikeout victim in the second. And again, a left-handed pitching specialist for Don Mattingly. He takes a first pass and misses 0-1.
Changeup that hung a little bit in the strike zone.
Swinging a high drive to right center field. This one's got a chance. Alcantara and Soler look up, and it's off the ivy. Kemp will score easily. Turner into third, an RBI double by Scott Van Slyke. And it's on at Wrigley once again for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Well, fastball that cut. Maybe a little cut fastball he was trying to backdoor, and it did not do what he had hoped to do, and he at least kept it in the ballpark, and that's going to be it for Dubront.
Rick Renneria goes to his bullpen in the third. We'll be right back. By this afternoon, trailing 6-1 with 1 out in the third. He is forced to yield with runners at second and third, and it'll be the right-handed swingman Carlos Villanueva that takes over on the mound.
Carlos fastball not overpowering. He's got a slider, sweeps a little bit, a changeup, and a curveball that doesn't have the biggest break on it.
Drew Butera bats with the Cubs infield in and only 1 away, and the first pitch from Villanueva stays high.
You just button up what I was talking about with DuPont and DuBrant, and the fact that when a pitcher tries to learn his rhythm, you can't overthrow and underthrow, and he's somewhere in between trying to figure out where that timing mechanism is. You can't go out there and just grunt it out and throw fastballs as hard as you can, but you can't also just lazily throw one in there. And at times he's trying to figure out where he needs to be. And on a day like today where the wind's blowing out, his timing was not where he wanted, and it showed with the pitches, and of course the Dodgers took advantage of it.
Ball and a strike to Dodger catcher Drew Butera. To 1-2, the pitcher waiting on deck. A chance for Los Angeles to add on even more, and as we've already talked about, they have scored early and often in now all 3 games of this 4-game set.
Well, with the pitcher on deck, Butera has to put this ball in play somewhere to try and add on, because then of course National League pitchers don't typically get a lot of hits.
And a wave and a miss. There are 2 away. There's another day game this afternoon in baseball. It also has postseason implications. Let's go to Ryan Field in the Fox Sports Studios for an update from Kansas City. Ryan? Well, not only is Torrey Hunter trying to play in the postseason again, this is a guy in his late 30s who's probably looking at another multi-year deal next year somewhere. If not in Detroit, then somewhere in Major League Baseball. He's finishing strong in another great overall campaign for the 9-time Gold Glover. Roberto Hernandez trying to pick up those base runners for himself now with 2 gone and 4 runs in the Dodger third.
It's interesting. The 2 teams that a lot of people felt might be in the World Series, the Tigers and the Dodgers, because of their rotations, both are dealing with interesting question marks. The Tigers, not on an injury standpoint, exception of Sanchez, but on a performance standpoint, with Price struggling a little bit. Verlander huge last night, quieted some of the critics, and of course Scherzer going at it today with Shields.
And a wave and a miss, and Carlos Villanueva finishes off the third, not before the Dodgers add 4 more. It's 6-1 LA. Puig & Company having a good time once again in Chicago on top 6-1. In fact, the Dodgers will be having an even better time if they can get Hyun-Jin Ryu back nursed to full health. One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball, encourages you to stay in the game when it comes to health and wellness. Don Mattingly telling us before the game today he is hopeful that Hyun-Jin Ryu can come off of the left shoulder irritation injury in time to perhaps throw a couple of innings in the regular season and then have him ready to go come the fall. He did play catch today, an encouraging first step for the Dodger left-hander.
Yeah, that's a big piece. I mean, that's not to be understated at all. They don't have Ryu. I don't know how they could become the favorites or even close to the favorites in the National League.
Top of the order here for the Cubs in the third. Chris Coghlan, Javier Baez, and Anthony Rizzo. Back up the middle and through. Make Chris Coghlan 2 for 2 with a home run today.
Right back through the wickets. That is not a pitcher's favorite thing. Coghlan's the most game he's played since 2009. Of course, he was Rookie of the Year 2009.
So the ex-Marlin is aboard for Javier Baez now, a strikeout victim back in the first. You know, among the things still left to be determined in baseball, and this is an aside from the NL West and some of the division races, home field advantage in both leagues. Baez with a swing and a high fly ball into right. And Matt Kemp's under it. There's one away. Right now, it's the Washington Nationals who have the best overall record in the senior circuit. One win better than the Dodgers. And there are those, John, who feel like home field advantage is more important for Washington than it would be for any of the other postseason teams.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, just from the standpoint of their limited experience. Of course, they had that brief, incredible series against the Cardinals, of which they were not able to hang on and win. Having home field and a young team and feeling good about the way they've been playing would definitely benefit them more than anybody else. You think about the Cardinals, who are in the mix, and the Dodgers. The Dodgers have already got the best record in the road, so one would think it would matter. But the experience factor, I think, or the lack of it for the Nationals, would benefit them for home field.
Ball and no strikes, the count to Anthony Rizzo. A lot of people feel like it takes some of the speculation away from who Matt Williams will hand the ball to for game one.
Yeah, that's a big part as well. You know, you think about those home and road splits that a manager, typically if a pitcher is having a great year, you don't have the disparity that you might, but on his staff he has a couple of those.
Steven Strasburg in particular, his home road splits are dramatically different, and if the Nats are to start their postseason series at home, it becomes real easy to hand the ball to Strasburg. It might be easy for him to do that on the road as well. Matt Williams knows more about his staff. He and his very fine pitching coach Steve McCatty, they know more about what they've got there than we do on the outside looking in. But the numbers are quite alarming. Rizzo fouls that one back, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes to the Chicago first baseman. Nationals, as is the case with almost the entire league, play later tonight. They're in South Florida once again. Jordan Zimmerman on the mound against the Miami Marlins. Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Anthony Rizzo. Jorge Soler waiting on deck. 1 out, 1 on. Last of the third, with the Cubs behind 6-1. And that one sprayed into the seats.
Well, what's interesting about some of the playoff teams that are trying to get their club ready, all of them really have a little bit of a weakness they're trying to deal with. You mentioned what we talked about with the Dodgers and their starting staff. The only weakness or hiccup maybe that the Nationals have is their closer is not their closer right now. They've had to shift closers, and Soriano has fallen out of that role. But for the most part, I would say the Nationals have the most complete team.
I think a lot of people agree with you there, and That might be a safe statement, even if you include the American League postseason teams.
Yeah, and you look at all those teams. Oakland's struggling to score runs. Seattle struggles to score runs, but they've done everything else they've had to do to be in it. Detroit has gone through spurts where they can't prevent runs, and that wasn't something. And then the most complete team probably in the American League is the Baltimore Orioles. So here you have two teams that not a lot of people thought, maybe Washington more so than Baltimore, are in the best shape, and Baltimore still has some people and positions they've lost due to injury, suspension, and yet they just keep winning. It's an amazing story that Buck has led that club to their divisional crown.
Orioles home with the Red Sox once again later tonight. The next 2-2 home to Rizzo, swung on and missed. That's the third strikeout today for Hernandez, and there are two gone now with a runner aboard.
This is that changeup that he has such great arm action on, and you see the ball act like a screwball away from a left-handed hitter. And the changeup is his go-to pitch. And today, to be successful, he's going to have that pitch working down in the zone, because up, we've already seen some fly balls that have left the yard.
Jorge Soler grounded a shortstop in his first plate appearance today. That's lined right to his opposite number to retire the side. Nothing comes after the leadoff single. We played 3 complete at Wrigley. 6-1 Dodgers. And by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Here's to Budweiser, here's to baseball. And here at Wrigley Field, here comes the rain. Umbrellas have popped, fans have scattered, yet we play on this final Saturday of summer. Dodgers on top 6-1, top of the order for the third time today. Gordon, Puig, and Gonzalez. As Carlos Villanueva sticks around. He mopped up the third after Felix Doubront was forced to an early exit today.
It's usually a bad sign for the opposing team when the leadoff hitter is hitting for the third time in the fourth inning. And it certainly has spelled that for the Cubs. Now, Carlos trying to just limit the amount of times and base runners that have been on base, and of course try to keep the ball in the yard.
Gordon breaks his bat into shallow left. Coghlan comes on and slides to make the grab.
two good things there, playing shallow and getting a good break and read. And now with the grass, some of the best grass in all of baseball here at Wrigley Field.
It's a good distance on that.
Yeah.
Looks like a Rick Dempsey tarp slide. So one away now for Yasiel Puig, who has singled, walked, and scored 2 of the 6 Dodger runs today. You know, of all the players on this team that have a flair about them, D. Gordon, Matt Kemp, Hanley Ramirez, a lot of folks, myself included, most looking forward to watching this guy, Yasiel Puig, make a postseason run. One and one to him.
I think he's getting a little bit better, as you would think most young players who come into this game have to learn and temper some of the emotions and aggressiveness of which he plays the game, but not to the point where it takes away from his effectiveness. And that's what Don Mattingly has been charged with, and just, I'm sure, a lot of talking to. We saw the other day him and Kemp chasing him down, kind of talking to him in the dugout. There's been less and less of that if this year versus last year, and of course you got to take what you can get with a dynamic player like Puig.
Out to right field. Soler with room just shy of the ivy for round number 2. So that'll bring up Adrian Gonzalez for the 3rd time today. A pair of home runs this afternoon and 5 runs batted in, and as such, he's having a pretty good time on the field with our cameraman Frank stopping and
I slow down over there? A little bit. I'm used to it now.
Sure, you can mess with the camera guy when you've hit 2 home runs and driven in 5. Adrian's having a blast. Frank's challenged just to try to keep up with him today. And a strike to Gonzalez. You know, we asked the question out loud, John, the last time a Dodger and an Angel vied for the Major League RBI crown. Well, it's never really happened the way it is this year. More on that as we continue after a very quick top half of the 4th. Still 6-1 Dodgers. start for Roberto Hernandez, giving up the leadoff home run to Chris Coghlan, but he has since settled down. He's had a lot of support, and he leads 6-1 as we start the home half of the fourth. Back with J.P. Morosi and John Smoltz. Matt Vasgersian. A couple of home runs for Adrian Gonzalez. He's driven in 5 of the 6 Dodger scores today. Luis Valbuena, Arizmendi, Alcantara, and Logan Watkins here for the Cubs.
Well, you can tell with the Cubs, they've got some guys with some awfully big swings, and when they connect, it looks great. But they're going to strike out a lot, and they have as a club. And that man right there is trying to look into the future and see which guys are going to be a major part next year and the adjustments they need to make to be competitive.
That's a fair ball into the right field corner. Valbuena into second with a leadoff double.
This ball just barely gets underneath the glove of Adrian Gonzalez, playing off the line, and you can see, I don't know if it's my imagination, I wasn't down on the field, but the grass does not look as tall as it normally was in recent visits here to Wrigley, and they can make that as thick and it'll gobble up based on what kind of pitchers you have. It'll gobble up the baseball if it's hit on the ground.
They can, and they have. Is that what you're suggesting?
Absolutely. And to their credit, I mean, when you had some of the pitchers they did, sinker ballers, and of course Ryan Sandberg and Sean Dunston playing shortstop.
Ball and no strikes, the count to Alcantara.
I'll tell you where it was huge is taking the extra base from first to third on a single to right field that wasn't hit on a line drive, one hopper, because it literally, outfielders had to run up and get a ball that had come a complete stop. That's how thick the grass can get here, and depending on what kind of ball club they have is probably going to determine on what kind of length of grass they will grow here.
And I, look, one man's opinion, I think that's a part of the home field advantage, and I don't even put that into the category of gamesmanship.
No, I agree.
That's just how they do their field, which they have every license to do that. Now, if you're a scandal theory guy, which I've been known to be in the past, there are a lot of folks that have come through here in the last 30 years, and I'm not saying this is the case now because it's not, but previously there was a thought that the mound at Wrigley Field was a little bit higher than it was anywhere else. Whether or not that's true, no one will ever know the answer. A swing and a miss by Alcantara, and there's one away.
Well, remember, they had some pretty good flamethrowers back in the day when Kerry Wood and doing his thing. But, the mound has always been something that, as long as, in a former pitcher, the bullpen mound and the actual playing mound are relatively the same, nobody ever complains. But when you have a disparity between the two, you have to make those in-game adjustments. That's tough.
Logan Watkins into the opposite field, and that one clears Van Slyke. It's going to get the Cubs on the board here in the fourth. A one-out RBI double by Logan Watkins, and it's 6-2 Los Angeles.
And that's going to be a great example of what the wind does that didn't result in a home run. He's playing in. It's an odd left field that kind of jets out. You see the 355, and this ball's well over his head. When he first took a beat on the ball, it looked like maybe he was going to get to it. But that's what makes the wind and this ballpark so unique. It's the alleyways. It's the power alley where the most home runs, I would think, are given up here at the park, because it's only 368 to each power alley.
A ball and no strikes, the count to the left-handed hitting catcher John Baker, who lined to left in his first appearance today. The rain that was a bit heavier 10-15 minutes ago has subsided to a degree. There's no better visual in the stands than a guy with his wife's umbrella. On one sharp pop for Ramirez. In the hole. Long throw is in time to get Baker. Hanley was well aware of who was running at that point. And there are 2 gone here in the 4th.
Yeah, with the surface being a little bit wet and he knew who was running, he took his time in the hole to throw to first base.
So 2 gone in the rain. And that'll bring up a pinch hitter. Ryan Kalish will swing the bat in place of Carlos Villanueva. So we'll have another pitching change as we go to the top half of the 5th.
How about this guy's story? Not playing for a whole year. Spinal fusion surgery, same as Peyton Manning. Darn it, couldn't get to the whole story.
Something tells me we'll have time today. 6-2 Los Angeles. The Cubs are the youngest team in baseball. There's certainly some young players in Los Angeles, including rookie outfielder Jock Peterson, who yesterday was sent on a Starbucks run in his uniform. Oh, this is amazing video. Hey, rookie, where's my Frappuccino? I understand Matt Kemp actually tried to send him back for a second run because Jock forgot his green tea.
I'll tell you the most impressive thing on that whole situation is that he did not spill one of them.
It's fantastic. Here is Matt Kemp leading things off in the 5th against a new pitcher on the mound for Chicago. Kemp 1 for 2 today and going to work here in the 5th against right-hander Blake Parker, who is very familiar at this point of the year with the route between Des Moines, Iowa and Chicago, Illinois. Recalled from AAA Iowa on September 1st for his 6th stint with the Cubs this year. I mean, there's being on the shuttle, and then there's, you know, having a season pass for it, which Parker seems to have.
Well, he throws his fastball about 90 miles an hour, give or take. You just saw the breaking ball. He's got a curveball, slider, splitter. More of a curveball than the downward action. Kind of a long arm action. Gets the ball to the plate. Maybe perceives it as the hitter maybe a little bit faster than the 90 miles an hour.
And a wave and a miss by Matt Kemp, and there's one away.
And there's the splitter. Good pitch. Acts like a fastball, and see the bottom of it drop it out. So that split finger fastball. Good weapon.
Hey, did they do the rookie hazing stuff in your day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there as much made about it as there is today? Were cameras following you guys around everywhere?
No, of course, social media, not what it is today. So, but we did it, I thought, in the best way you could do it. And we dressed everybody up, making it the Montreal trip when you had to go through customs.
Maximizing the
exposure.
Sure.
Absolutely. And so it became pretty evident to a lot of the customs people, like, what do we got going on here? And we even convinced a couple of them maybe to ask more questions to keep them there a little longer.
I get it. 0-1 the count to Hanley Ramirez. And that's chopped through the hole on the right side. A 1-out base hit. Well, it's not just Starbucks runs on the Dodgers side of things. There was a whole dress-up day on September 17th, a series of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The veteran Jamie Wright was the ringleader in this thing, one is led to believe. Superhero theme. And guess what? It's not just rookies that come up with little fanfare. Even big-time prospects like Clayton Kershaw going all Little Bo Peep on us in 2008 at the hand of the veteran Mark Sweeney. Okay. It happens. And Clayton taking it all in stride. There's one behind Justin Turner.
Ball slipped. Going to be a breaking ball, and it just slips out of his hand. Tell you what an unfortunate circumstance for one of the guys that was probably the front runner for the MVP in Stanton getting hit the way he did in Milwaukee. That you never ever want to see that, and that was one of the most violent, and he was attempting to swing, which is even more amazing. Matter of fact, they did call, I think they might have called it a swing.
Yeah, they did,
which I'm not even going to get into on that, but.
Yeah, real tough to watch. Giancarlo Stanton is on the mend. That's the good news. Turner with a swing and a high drive into left center field. This is going to stay in the ballpark for Coughlin or Alcantara.
Well, you see the flags now, they're non-existent as far as the wind goes, so that ball earlier in the game might have got out of the ballpark. You see him just barely waving, and whatever front is coming through or attempting to come through. It's in pause right now.
So a 2-out base runner now for Scott Van Slyke. Continuing the Giancarlo Stanton discussion, given the fact that he'll miss most of September by the time the season ends, there are other MVP candidates that perhaps are garnering more consideration by his absence.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I still think the voters are going to give him consideration for something he couldn't control, to get hit like that. And you can easily look at his numbers and see what he could have added on. But I still think he's in the running. I don't know that he'll get it now, but he's going to take some votes away, definitely.
Van Slyke with a broken bat soft liner into the left that'll settle in for a base hit. Well, the reigning MVP, Andrew McCutchen, is certainly in the conversation. Considered the heart and soul of the postseason bound Pittsburgh Pirates, should things stay on course. And Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers. It isn't every year that you have this kind of serious discussion about a pitcher winning MVP, but for obvious reasons, Kershaw is in the discussion this year.
And rightfully so. I mean, again, I've often said and have made it known that, I didn't think pitchers should get the MVP unless some circumstances around the position players don't make it a clear-cut choice. But what he's done for the Dodgers in limited fashion, I mean, he's missed probably 4 to 5 starts or more. But without this current run he's been on, I don't know the Dodgers sit atop first place in their division.
Here's Drew Butera now. He's hitless today and lays off strike 1. Los Angeles has been great in this series with runners in scoring position. A team with good overall numbers in that capacity. They're 10 for 27 here this weekend at Wrigley. 0-2 to Butera. Well, how dominant has Clayton Kershaw been this year? The 2-time Cy Young Award winner has a great shot at a third. He's trying to be the first pitcher ever to win 4 straight Major League ERA titles. And he's the first since '99 with 20 or more wins in his first 20-plus starts. 26 starts, that is.
It's kind of scary to think what he would have done or could have done with a typical 35 start season. Of course, he starts out with the Dodgers in Australia and then goes on the DL shortly after and misses more time than I think people expected. Then has that hiccup in Arizona where he gives up 7 runs in an inning and 2/3 or whatever the total was, and then just rattles off a stretch that is incredible. And to his credit, and everything that he's done on the mound speaks for itself. But I think he is the complete package. That's why he was rewarded with the contract he was given, and why they think so highly of him now in the clubhouse, outside the clubhouse, what he represents, character. He's the real deal for the Dodgers.
Also the Dodgers Clemente Award nominee. And there's a called strike 3 taken by Drew Butera. 2 runners left aboard in the 5th. Middle of the afternoon, 6-2 Los Angeles. Find new roads. In today's game, Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers and Anthony Rizzo of the Cubs have been nominated for the Roberto Clemente Award presented by Chevrolet. Go to ChevyBaseball.com and vote now for the player you think deserves this prestigious award. You'll be entered for a chance to go to the 2014 World Series.
Definitely is a great representative of the game and the award. I think, one of the greatest awards you can be nominated for and get outside the game of baseball. Your stats speak for themselves, but what you're able to do away from the game, Clayton has already made an impact in his community and overseas for that matter.
Chris Coghlan leads things off here in the fifth inning for Chicago. Coghlan, Baez, and Rizzo. Yeah, Clayton Kershaw, his whole family, they're very active, as you mentioned, internationally and here at home, John, in their philanthropic efforts. Most recently, a ping pong tournament that garnered a lot of attention in Los Angeles. I guess you could call it a celebrity ping pong tournament.
Yeah.
And when the voters choose a Clemente Award winner, maybe they'll consider events like this held at the ballpark. Zach Greinke, hyper competitive, we're told. Among the celebrities, Jaleel White, you know, Urkel.
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel, Mario Lopez, Chris Paul.
How did Millar and Rose get in there?
No idea. Begging? It was back on September 4th. Clayton's ping pong for purpose, and proceeds used to build homes and provide medical care for vulnerable orphans around the world. He's very active in that regard. It's not just eyewash. 1-2 the count to Chris Coghlan.
Well, some of the things you look for now with this kind of rain is you look at the mound and the pitcher's footing and whether or not they start sliding. Then you'll start seeing some diamond dry come out. But this is the situations now as a pitcher you don't ever want to get hurt. And with light rain falling, it isn't big rain. It just makes it a little slick. Sometimes it affects the way you land and how your spikes.
Given the conditions and given where the Cubs are in the standings, a terrific crowd here at first pitch, many of which have stuck around through the rain. I still say pound for pound, the baseball experience at Wrigley Field in Chicago, Illinois is the best in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I'd have to probably agree. I think and this city is starving for a winner. You know, they're starving to try and break that curse. And I would say with the likes of about 5 teams that are not in where they want to standing wise, have a chance to make a huge jump next year. Chicago's getting closer if they can add some pitching. But
Coghlan hanging around.
I look at the Mets and the Marlins and their pitching staffs that they're putting together. Really, even Cleveland with the emergence of Carrasco and Kluber and Salazar. Some teams got a chance to make up for what didn't become a successful campaign this year and right away right the ship next year and get into the postseason. The Cubs are hoping by 2016 they're in that conversation.
I mean, it would be a Atlanta Braves style from your vintage, worst to first kind of turnaround. If the Cubs go out and perhaps add some free agent pitching parts, and there's been a lot of discussion about Max Scherzer and maybe even more appropriately John Lester coming to the friendly confines last year. It's going to be a really interesting offseason.
If you want to be a hero, come here and pitch well. You will be a hero. And that's really in the blue. I don't know what the blueprint says for the Chicago Cubs. We know what the model has been built. Position players, offense. You see the fruits of that. They just have not had the arms come through the farm system yet where you can go, that's a kind of guy that can stick around.
Coghlan at the end of a very good at-bat gets one over Puig into center field. What an impressive plate appearance that was from Chris Coghlan. My heavens, he is a triple shy of the cycle this afternoon. And of his 3 plate appearances today, none better than that one.
Yeah, this is a pitch that comes back over the middle of the plate, and he hits that line drive that I think is best suited for this ballpark. Whether the wind's blowing in or the wind's blowing out, that plays.
It's a 10-pitch plate appearance that finds Coghlan at second base with his 3rd base hit of the game. It has been quite a journey back to the ranks of an everyday regular player in the big leagues for the former National League Rookie of the Year, J.P. Morosi, with more on that.
Yeah, Matt, Coughlin was the NL Rookie of the Year in 2009. Since then, he's had 2 knee surgeries during his time with the Marlins. And as he told me today, at some point in time, they just sort of forget about you. And they actually non-tendered him after last season, became a free agent. He said all those trials and tribulations have made him a better person, better teammate, better ball player. And here he is now with his most games played since 09.
And you'd have to figure, as Javier Baez lays off ball 2, that as the Cubs reassess for 2015, the statement Coughlin has made this year would make his a name in the plans next year and maybe beyond. Two balls and no strikes to Javier Baez. He struck out and fly to right today. Big swing and a miss. My, he does not get cheated. That's like that big Adrian Beltre hack. Bigger than that.
Yeah, I would imagine he's not going to have many check swings in his career.
He's a right-handed hitter, but I think of Reggie Jackson on that Sports Illustrated cover from 73, 74, the cover that read Super Duper Star, and it had Reggie on his knees after a swing like that.
They're asking for the old tongue depressor, or in that case it looks like a knife. I've never seen anybody bring out a knife, but that's what they're using to clean the spikes. We talked about this is that annoying kind of just kind of sticks to the bottom of your shoes, doesn't expose your spikes, and then you get a little bit of a slip. I thought he could have done even a better job of cleaning out the bottom of his cleats, but that's the first for me. A knife, a butter knife.
He only had so long to use it because somebody had to get back to their veal cutlet in the clubhouse.
I've never seen that. It's usually the old tongue depressor that the trainer will cut and make a point and use that.
3 balls and a strike to Javier Baez.
Well, if he didn't come out of his shoes the first time he swung, I would be willing to bet he's going to come out of his shoes on this 3-1 count.
Coughlin at second with nobody out. These next 3 outs are important ones for Hernandez and the Dodgers. Make this thing official. Big wave and a miss. You got it again there, Karnak.
He came out of his right hand coming off the bat. Literally. I think it's okay to hit it 380 feet versus 480 feet, but did not get cheated. I know what I'd throw here. It would not be a fastball. 100%.
Got it. Let's see what Hernandez does.
He threw him a fastball.
He did, didn't he? Dodger bullpen is busy. Same set of the Cubs pen. Paco Rodriguez up. One of the LA left-handers getting ready for an appearance perhaps sooner than what Hernandez would care to admit to. He'd like to get the next 3 outs here and finish this as an official. And they are proving more elusive with every plate appearance. Ball 4 to Baez. Tough to walk that guy.
Yeah, there was a couple pitches that he could have gotten 4 strikes. That was a changeup 3-2 that at first glance looked like maybe caught part of the plate, but this is a situation with the weather looming that Don Mattingly's not going to wait much longer, because these 2 outs are very important if the game is going to get delayed and possibly not finished. Of course, 5 innings is a complete game, barring the tarp, and here he comes, looks like.
Yep. They want to make sure Paco Rodriguez is hot and ready, and here comes Don Mattingly. He's going to make a change. So Hernandez will not be afforded the opportunity to go the required 5 for the victory.
I think he's going to talk about the mound maybe being worked on a little bit to try and give him some more.
That is absolutely what he's signaling. It looked like he was going out there to visit with the home plate umpire Hal Gibson and make a lineup card change. But you're right, John. The directive here is let's look at the mound. Let's look at what we're doing.
Hernandez says it's fine. So now that's going to get clarification from Mattingly.
Apparently Don Mattingly wanted at least the ask made if he wanted the dirt freshened up, and those were at least the theatrics behind what we're seeing now, which is the pitching change. We assume. That did not constitute an initial visit, apparently, when Don Mattingly came out the first time. There's the change. After all that, we will have a change. Enter Paco Rodriguez, runners aboard and nobody out. We'll be right back. Critics have been raving about it all summer long, and Monday it's finally here. See how the legendary characters began. Don't miss the Gotham series premiere Monday at 8/7 Central on Fox. So after the pitching change, Anthony Rizzo will face a left-hander on the mound for Los Angeles. He is Paco Rodriguez.
Yeah, when you see this delivery, don't teach it at home. This is very unorthodox, almost a pause, but tough on left-handers. And Anthony Rizzo has been good against left-handers, hitting at .306, the biggest improvement that I think he's made. But watch this delivery if you're a left-handed hitter.
2 on, nobody out. 4-run game last of the 5th, and a wave and a miss. Anthony Rizzo has homered against Paco Rodriguez. His lone hit in 3 plate appearances against the Dodgers southpaw. Coughlin doubled. Baez walked. That was the end of the game for Hernandez. 1-1.
Rizzo is as close as you can get. Now, you don't see any more lines in the batter's boxes close to the plate, but watch his back foot. We've already talked about his hands, but his back foot is so close to the plate, and then of course he's going to close up a little bit, so a pitch inside, borderline inside, as he closes up could hit him and could be a strike at the same time.
Ball and 2 strikes now.
But that is exactly where you have to attack him. These are 2 great pitches down. Look as he closes up, and that back foot, you can faintly see that chalk line, and you can see, of course, the wet batter's box that the hitter is trying to get footing just as the pitcher is.
The 1-2 from Rodriguez. A swing and a miss, strike 3.
Adrian Beltre type swings down to one knee as he finishes.
So now it's Jorge Soler. He'll have an opportunity against the southpaw. He's followed by another left-handed bat, Luis Valbuena, on deck. There's nobody up behind Paco Rodriguez. This is his 5th inning to try to navigate. Paco Rodriguez is one of 4 Dodger left-handers available out of Don Mattingly's bullpen today. September roster expansion, like it or not, gives managers all kinds of options, and it is a very heavy Dodger bullpen today. The 0-1 to Soler. A ball and a strike.
Right there's a really good pitch, and then to credit what we've heard about this young kid, a good take. Hard cutter in. If you're an aggressive hitter, there's no way you lay off of it, but he's able to recognize it and stay off of a very good pitcher's pitch. And now the count 1-1.
Soler trying to prevent going hitless for just the 3rd time in his now 18-game major league career. He's 0 for 2 so far today, and behind here a ball and 2 strikes.
He's done a good job behind in the count so far in his brief stint, hitting .278, and the count is in the pitcher's favor.
2-2 now. Nothing about this series has come easy for the Dodgers. Granted, they've scored a couple of rather lopsided looking wins. But even Clayton Kershaw, who was the beneficiary of all that offense yesterday, admitted that nothing came easy for him in earning his 19th victory. That would appear the case again today. 2-2 to Soler is squared up and sent out to center field. Diving is Puig to make a magnificent catch. They throw back into second to double off Coughlin and retire the side, as all eyes will go to Yasiel Puig to make sure he comes out of this wonderful play okay. This ball was ticketed for the gap.
Yeah, this is a fantastic catch and a great play. You see it after he throws it, feels his shoulder a little bit. Unbelievable.
Hang that one on the Yasiel Puig 2014 highlight reel, and it's still 6-2 LA. Back and Body, the official pain reliever of Major League Baseball. And by the Gillette Fusion Pro Glide, now with flex ball technology, it's shaving rebuilt. How about some Bayer back and body for Yasiel Puig after this effort?
Yeah, this is an unbelievable play. Going away from him, we've seen him make some acrobatic catches, but this, under the circumstances with the wet grass, and then a little concern once he releases the ball. Watch him grimace with that shoulder. Falls back, and I'm sure landing on the shoulder wasn't that good, but that is going to be a concern, as you can only try to guess what he had done when he had thrown that baseball. But what a play.
So some changes here as we start the sixth. The new pitcher on the mound for Chicago and a pinch hitter for Los Angeles.
Wesley Wright, not a very big guy, but lower arm angle fastball, very big curveball, a changeup that works like a screwball, and the fastball can be very sneaky.
And the former Astro delivers the next offering home to Alex Guerrero, which is hit on the ground out to Watkins at second. What's happening between the Tigers and Royals in Kansas City? Ryan Field has a game break. All right, Ryan, thanks. We'll keep our eyes on the Tigers and the Royals as we move forward here. Big one for Kansas City after losing the opener yesterday. The Justin Verlander show completely shutting down the Royals' attack. Here's D. Gordon now.
In between innings, they put a little bit of diamond dry both in the batter's box and on the mound, trying to get that footing a little bit more secure for each, the batter and the pitcher. As we look at the infield from above, the infield is starting to get a little gloss and shine from the rain that has constantly fallen. Just a light rain, but a consistent rain. So you start looking at the footing of the players to be a factor here as we move on.
A new right fielder for the Cubs as D. Gordon lines an opposite field base hit into left. And I would imagine, John, for Don Mattingly in particular, the conditions, the lead, the later we go here today, one would guess his regulars will start rotating out here.
Yeah, mentally, that's the biggest challenge for a team headed to the playoffs. We know they're going to be in the playoffs, whether they're division winners or not. He's yet to be determined. But the psychology of playing for something and playing hard and playing or not to play to get hurt. Those are two things that a manager has to gauge on when he rests players, and not to mention lose that momentum as they get a break when the season's over to start their first series. And I always felt, everyone's going to argue it's like the team that's hot coming in, getting in by the seat of their pants. Sometimes you feel like they've got the momentum to continue playing baseball, because baseball's played over that 162 games without many off days, and you train yourself to do that.
First pitch to Yasiel Puig misses down low.
And the other challenge will be is if he gets the position he wants and clinches the division, what do you do with your starters as they finish the season? Because you don't want to go 10 to 12 or 8 to 12 days without pitching or throwing. So you have to play it as close to the vest as you can, I think.
Gordon runs, pitch is taken for a strike, and the throw down to second gets him.
I would say this is a little bit of a product of the wet track and the lefty on the mound not getting the greatest of jump, but a good release and tag.
I was surprised to see Gordon even running there. Yeah. So with 2 away and the base is empty now, a 2-1 count on Yasiel Puig. 1 for 2 is D. Gordon in the stolen base department this afternoon. Along those same lines, you talk about keeping players fresh. This whole team dynamic of being among the first to qualify for the postseason, and it was the Angels that were the first to lock up a postseason chair this year. The last time a first to clinch team won a World Series, it was the 2012 Giants. But to find the next, you've got to go back to the '98 Yankees. Puig to left and well hit off the ivy wall. Puig running hard into second. He'll get in without a slide, and Yasiel Puig makes a good day even better. Man, does he love playing at Wrigley Field.
A little sinking fastball that he stays on, and again another line drive just under the basket. Now for Mr. RBI, Gonzalez looking to try and get a few more RBIs in an already, what, 5 RBI day?
Yeah, a couple of home runs, 5 runs batted in. The 2 home runs came against the left-handed starter Felix Dubron. Puig at second with 2 gone, and a strike to Gonzalez. So we mentioned Adrian Gonzalez, now the major league's RBI leader. He and Mike Trout of the Angels 1 and 2 in that capacity. The only time an Angel and Dodger have even finished in the same top 5 in runs batted in was 1977. When both Bobby Bonds of the Angels and Steve Garvey of the Dodgers drove in 115. Gonzalez into left. Coughlin's got it. And Puig back into second. That's the end of the inning, folks.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on.
Unbelievable. Anybody want to come off? Puig got back into second and sold to everybody that was out number 2. And Adrian's like, hey, we got to go play defense now. Get your gloves, fellas. All right. Add on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replay, scores, stats, audio free. MLB.tv Game of the Day and more. Download on the App Store or visit MLB.com today. Luis Valbuena leads things off here in the home half of the 6th, as we remind you, nonstop action, heart-pounding excitement, historic performances. Don't miss the 2014 postseason beginning September 30th. New pitcher on the mound for the Dodgers. Daniel Colombe takes over here in the home 6th. A bullpen game ever since the, I guess you could call it, abbreviated start by Hernandez, one that didn't quite see him through the required 5 to get the decision.
Young man, fastball 90 plus, over the top, curveball, pretty good break, changeup, good breaking away from the right-handed hitter. Everybody getting a chance to contribute in September.
Valbuena, Alcantara, and Watkins here in the Chicago half of the 6th. When we've played this one through a, I would call it regular, if not steady, rain for the last few innings. And there's ball 4 to Valbuena. Checking back in on the Tigers and Royals in Kansas City. Ryan Field has a game break. Boy, what a tough way to lose a lead, Ryan. Thanks. We were all looking at this one on our computers, and it was 2-1 Kansas City, and then that run went away, and we thought, what's going on in tape? What's going on in Kansas City, in other words? 3-1 Tigers now in the 7th. Yikes. Hit the bull, win a stake. That one just straight slipped out of the left-hander's hand.
Yeah, that's what happens in a pesky little rain. You're just hoping to keep your hand dry, and we've seen 2 pitches slip already out of the pitcher's hand. And you see that curveball. He's got a big breaking curveball trying to snap it down, and it just flips out of his hand and hits the brick wall behind Wrigley home plate, and runner moves up. Now they're going to go over the signs with the infielders. New pitcher. Going to determine what signal they want to use. Looks like a knuckle curveball.
Headed right for that lady in the poncho.
Let's see if they no, nobody flinched.
Now everybody's too busy on their cell phones.
I don't care how many times you tell yourself there's a screen there. Foul ball, they flinch like that.
Alcantara fouls that one away. Cubs center fielders 0 for 2 today. Drew Butera just going to chat with his rookie left-hander. More bullpen activity for Los Angeles. Pedro Baez is up. Don Mattingly made it clear with us before the game today that should this one go his way, again, he'll be afforded the luxury of using tomorrow's series finale as a bullpen game and then bumping Dan Herron back to Monday against the Giants. That's the ideal case scenario, and that's what the Dodgers are headed toward today.
We got some kind of issue or disconnect here where they're going to make sure that they all get on the same page. The fans aren't real happy with the 3rd trip to the mound.
Little conversation here with Rick Honeycutt, and it gives us a chance to give you Pepsi real big things you need to know. Some big things you need to know about how good the Dodgers are when Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke are out there. 39-17. When it's anybody else, it's a rather pedestrian 49-49. Make it real big this summer with 3 new flavors of Pepsi made with real sugar.
Well, if nothing else, they've stalled for the right-hander to get more heated down in the bullpen. Probably my biggest fear or phobia was exactly what just happened right here. I was getting ready to say, when you're warming up in that pen, and I've thrown more pitches trying to get ready out of the bullpen that end up getting past the catcher, just missing the umpire, messing with play, because there's just not much room.
That was seriously on your mind when you warmed up here?
I hated it. If you look at it, it's just there's no room between the pitcher, the catcher who's catching, and then of course where the umpire is. Everything's so on top of you, right? There's not much room. It was not didn't like it.
I learn something new about you all the time. An 8-time All-Star headed toward Cooperstown in a year, and you were afraid of letting one go in the bullpen at Wrigley and messing up play. Yeah,
that and catchers that wouldn't wear a chest protector. Like, guys would just go down there with the chin guards and the mask, and it's like, no, you got to put on chest protector. No, let's go ahead and throw it. I said, no, I'm telling you. Or shin guards. Got to have them on. I didn't like it.
2 balls and 2 strikes. They count to Alcantara. That one squirts away from Butera, and another 90 feet for Valbuena. Now, the sloppy track here, as they might say up in Saratoga, has really affected what's happened at Wrigley this afternoon.
Yeah, that one hit the plate and skipped. Didn't take the trajectory that a catcher's used to when it hits the dirt. The plate is like real slick when it gets wet. And really, Butera didn't have much of a chance there.
So Alcantara can play to run here if he can put it in play. The infield back for the Dodgers with a 4-run lead. And there's ball 4. A pair of walks have put runners at the corners now with nobody out. Well, that pitch total includes 2 wild pitches for the young southpaw. And I believe Don Mattingly has seen enough. He's got Pedro Baez hot. And despite the fact that the Cubs have 3 left-handers scheduled here, it will be the right-hander Baez who will enter out of the Dodger bullpen. Another pitching change. We'll be right back. On top 2-0 after just a single out had been recorded. Adrian Gonzalez hit a home run in the first. Adrian Gonzalez hit a home run in the third. 2 dingers, 5 stakes for Major League Baseball's RBI leader. It's been a big afternoon for the four-time All-Star, and he's a big part of our Domino's game summary. Visit Domino's.com. Chris Coughlin's had a good day for the home squad. D. Gordon, another 2-hit game. That ties a Dodger record, 8 straight for him. And he's run an overall hitting streak to 13 in a row. The 4th Dodger pitcher of the afternoon is the right-hander Pedro Baez.
Yeah, he's got a very good arm. 95+ mile an hour fastball. Sits on his back leg and lets it go. He's a converted infielder, I believe, as they have now become more and more evident in baseball. As a case now throwing from the mound. Cheese.
Chris Valaika is the pinch hitter, and on the first offering sends a fly ball out to right. The Santa Monica, California native flies out in his first chance, and that keeps everybody put. Valbuena at third, Alcantara at first.
Missed opportunity there, driving the ball deep enough to get a run and an RBI.
So now the catcher, John Baker. Baker's hitless so far today.
Rafael Chavez, who effectively taught Baez his mechanics, was the same one that taught Soriano. Converted outfielder and first baseman. So he saw something in his arm, and probably more than anything, they didn't see something in each other's bats that took him back to the mound.
Yeah, Rafael Chavez is a guy been around baseball his whole life. Never pitched at the major league level, but he has been instrumental in putting a lot of players in the big leagues. He spent some time as a pitching coach in Seattle. He was involved in their developmental system for a long time. Is credited with refining Felix Hernandez, among other people. And a great asset to the Dodgers. A ball and a strike to count to John Baker. San Francisco Giants paying attention perhaps to what's happening here in Wrigley today. They're in action later on tonight out west in San Diego after a disappointing loss in that series opener yesterday. Giants starting play, of course, 3.5 behind LA in the National League West, but certainly in a better spot when it comes to the National League's wild card race. Two balls and a strike to Baker. Giants and Pirates starting play in a dead heat for the National League wild card. And it would make it real easy for Major League Baseball if that were just to kind of stay that way. But there are all kinds of complicated scenarios when it comes to the wild card, play-in games if needed. And Baker jerks that one foul.
Yeah, there's some scenarios, especially more so in the American League, that could play havoc to the schedule and the way it's set up. If you have a tiebreaker just to get into the one-game playoff, that's pretty much well set right now, with Pittsburgh taking a stronghold after last night's come-from-behind victory against the Brewers. The Brewers have lost some heartbreakers, man. They had St. Louis in just about every game where they wanted them and couldn't finish off the deal. And then last night, 2-0, and 4 runs in the bottom of the 8th, thanks to a 3-run homer by Martin.
And a full count pitch now. 3 balls and 2 strikes to John Baker. Yeah, I know J.P. Morosi was trying to figure out his travel schedule for one of those complicated scenarios. How is all that going to be handled? I mean, I don't think the league roots for this kind of logistical nightmare, J.P.
No, Matt, and it's actually never happened before that baseball has had a 3-team tiebreaker, but that's where the whole Team A, Team B, Team C designation comes in. It would be a 3-day tiebreaker to break a 3-way tie, and that could possibly be complemented by a 4-game tiebreaker if there's a tie in the American Central as well.
Big wave and a miss by Baker, and that's out number 2. So you're saying that if there's a 3-way tie, there are 3 games played on 3 different days, which would ultimately slow down the beginning of the division series, right?
Potentially, and certainly in the American League, it could actually delay the game 1 of one of those 2 series until Friday. But again, the really complicated one becomes if the Tigers and the Royals have to play off the American League Central title on Monday before that 3-day, 3-team tiebreaker would begin on Tuesday, because of course the loser, now this is if they all finish with the same number of wins, the loser of that AL Central tiebreaker would then fall into the 3-team tiebreaker for the wild card. So basically, Matt, final story here, pack a big suitcase because it could be a lot of fun.
Man, that is just way too hairy to even contemplate, and it sounds like a Groucho Marx bit. Here's Matt Caesar now with runners at the corners. Ifs, ands, and buts. That's the old Groucho bit. If you take cranberries and stew them like prunes, they taste much more like boysenberry than rhubarb does. I mean, it's one of those. You can't figure it.
Yeah, I'm rooting for it.
you just want more games. It would be interesting. Start of play today, Oakland and Kansas City in a dead heat for the American League wild card 2 top spots. That one's fouled off the mask of Butera. Seattle only a half game back, and the thing that kind of complicates it for Kansas City is this game that they have to finish with the Indians, right? They're going to play the 9th, that they're trailing 4-2, and they're going to have 3 outs left. I don't know that a team's been more up against it than being on the outside looking in and then having a 2-run deficit with 3 outs left that you have to, quote, complete.
On the road, no less.
On the road.
Because that game was at home that got suspended.
Royals still trailing at home to the Tigers 3-1, that one in the 7th. 6-2 here with 2 out in the last of the 6th. The 0-2 from Baez misses high. Been a long series, and I think Cub fans are used to watching longer games this year. Some bullpen shortcomings contributing to that, but part of that is by design. Now, Cubs take a lot of pitches. Almost a money ball dynamic to that approach.
And that's the part I still haven't figured out. Meaning, if you take a lot of pitches, you're working the counts to your favor, you should take advantage of it. But if you're taking a lot of pitches and you're striking out a ton, I don't get it. You got to be able to do certain things that fit the player, not necessarily a philosophy. And to me, you're feeding into the hands of the pitcher. If you're a high strikeout team that hasn't learned to make adjustments or cut down your swing, if you're taking a lot of pitches and striking out a lot, I think it's a wash.
Two balls and 2 strikes. That's a number when a team leads the league in pitches per plate appearance. And that number for the Cubs is almost 4. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. That's a number usually attached to a postseason top-tier club, right? Those Yankee dynasty teams of the late 90s, early part of the 2000s, annually led the league in pitches per plate appearance. That's where you're used to seeing that. Good Red Sox teams of recent vintage.
Yeah, last year.
2-2 pitch, a little fly ball out to shallow right. Gordon got a good read off the bat to retire the side. Well, Wrigley faithful celebrating 100 years of baseball at 1060 West Addison. We're back from that address for the 7th inning right after this.
core work going on by the grounds crew.
Yeah.
Shoveling the diamond dry and throwing it as far as they can to get as much covered in the wet spots to give the infielders some traction. And there you have it.
I believe that's the first time there's been a slow-mo replay of a dirt shovel. Love it. We're only in the 7th inning. Matt Kemp opens the 7th with a new second baseman on the field for Chicago. Chris Valenca takes over there for Logan Watkins.
And a big missed opportunity for the Cubs to get back into the game. 1st and 3rd, nobody out. And Baez came in and shut the door with a fly ball and a couple big outs.
A single and a run scored for the two-time All-Star Matt Kemp this afternoon. It's been a rare September game for him that doesn't include a bunch of power. He's enjoying a very good month of September. 2-1 to him now. He started play this afternoon with a September slugging percentage of .656. One of the most prolific slugging months of his career.
Carl Crawford has been on fire in September, and his numbers, of course, he's not playing today, the left-handed starter. Kemp's had a good September average wise. Really, most of the Dodgers have had a real good September.
And there's ball 4. This afternoon's pitcher comparison is brought to you by Bank of America. The two starters, and I don't think either one of them fared as well as they had designed. Roberto Hernandez was unable to finish the 5th. He was unable to get an out in the 5th, and thus will not benefit from all the offense. And Felix Dubravka only 2 1/3 today.
Yeah, he didn't have it. The wind was blowing pretty well when he was pitching, as was Roberto, and then the rain coming down for Roberto caused him to not be able to get through the 5th, when normally in any other start he would have been given the chance to finish that 5th. But because of the weather being what it was, Don Mattingly was not going to take any chances to let that inning get big.
There's Hanley Ramirez now. Ramirez has walked twice and singled today. You know, getting back to Matt Kemp, and he's been so good since the All-Star break. He has reminded everybody in Los Angeles and around Major League Baseball of how good a player he is, something that people seem to have forgotten. It's a fly ball into the corner. Matt Caesar is there, and there's one away. Came pretty close to an MVP award in his last real big year in 2011, that is. 20 or more in 5 of his last seasons. Again, he's come alive after the All-Star break, and it was amazing to me to hear the dialogue early in the season and last year about Matt Kemp possibly being on the trade block. A guy that was a cornerstone, or so it seemed, of what the Dodgers were trying to do. Big contract extension. You're thinking that this is a franchise guy for his whole career, as Turner takes a strike. And then, for whatever reason, and I think it was injuries, the climate soured on him. He didn't have the kind of results he had hoped for, but I don't think he was healthy. There was concussion syndrome. There was a shoulder injury that took a lot of his power away. That's lined into right. And Kemp digging in for third. Runners at the corners with one gone.
Well, I think that shoulder and ankle took more of the toll than anything else, because his inability to drive the ball with his shoulder injury, now more time to heal, as we see him turn on the turbo boost there the last couple feet. The slide leg got stuck a little bit in the infield mud a little around the bag, but I think the injuries really did take more of a toll on his power numbers. And when you lose confidence in your power or being able to drive the ball, it affected a lot more than just his average.
There's Scott Van Slyke now with runners at the corners and one away. You know, and through so much of that, Matt Kemp tried to play. And he never said this publicly, to his great credit, but if it were any of us, I don't think we would have appreciated all the dialogue. Maybe we trade him. He's not what he used to be. You know, he kept his head down and kept playing. And now we're seeing Matt Kemp healthy. This is the kind of player he is.
Well, not to mention losing his position. You know, he goes from center field, and rightfully so, somebody else is witnessing not the same step, and you make that change and takes, you know, a hit to your pride, and you go to right field and saying, I'll show him, I'll be back. You know, I'll get that position back. But all those things coupled with an outfield that was already crowded, Don Mattingly trying to juggle that outfield to keep everybody happy. Of course, talked about Crawford getting hot and really picking up his slugging percentage of late.
3 balls and a strike to count to Scott Van Slyke. Well, in regards to Kemp, you know, you're not talking about, say, a Torrey Hunter who moves from center field to a corner outfield in a latter stage of his career. Matt Kemp isn't even 30 yet. It's a fly ball out to right. Caesar throwing home. It's cut off. Kemp scores, and now they've got Turner in a pickle. He's thrown out trying to advance. The run does count as Kemp came across home plate before the out at second base. So the Dodgers add on in the seventh inning stretch at Wrigleyville, and it's 7-2 LA. Mobile and by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Here's to Budweiser, here's to baseball. Coming up tonight, college football on Fox returns with a Big 12 showdown as the 4th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners take on West Virginia. Coverage begins at 6:30 Eastern, only on Fox and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Join Gus Johnson, Charles Davis, and Molly McGrath tonight on Fox.
I'm going to say this song. A few touchdowns scored in that game.
Think so?
Yeah.
All right. You follow the college pigskin quite regularly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a suffering Big Ten fan. Ah, what a down year.
Just this year, huh?
Yeah, the last couple.
New pitcher for the Dodgers, J.P. Howell, goes to work here in the home half of the 7th. and gets the top of the Chicago order.
He's been able to get this guy out. Some great at bats already. JP uses his whole frame and deception to get hitters out. Doesn't overpower you, but looks like he's throwing his whole body when he ends up pitching. He's going to end up somewhere close to third base side.
Miguel Rojas is the new Dodgers shortstop, spelling Hanley Ramirez for the rest of the day. It's a move that makes a lot of good sense with Hanley's elbow injury and all, and a seemingly large 5-run lead here in the late stages today. Chris Coghlan, a triple shy of the cycle, and likely without an opportunity to accomplish that as he draws ball 4. Last Cub player to hit for the cycle was back in 1993. Mark Grace against the Padres right here at Wrigley. Could you imagine? It's only been done by a Cub 11 times, and I say only because of the Cubs' 100-plus year franchise history.
Is that only here at home or all time, no matter road or home?
I believe that's all time.
Because I could see here at home being a problem, because triples just have to have a crazy kind of bounce.
Let's take you back to May 9th, 93. Mark Grace doubled in the first, singled in the third. I can't wait to see how this triple went. Here it is.
Got to be where it bounces crazy. Yeah, off his leg into the corner.
And then the home run came last in the bottom of the 9th. Double, single, triple dinger for Mark Grace. So you know the Padres still to this day do not have a cycle in their franchise history.
Come on.
How strange is that? No hitter. We know that. That's talked about a lot. But they do not have a cycle.
Wow. Did Aaron Hill hit for 2 of them for the Diamondbacks in 1 year?
Yep. Baez with a huge swing sends it in play. The throw to first by Howell's in time to get him. A great play by J.P. Howell. As hard as it is to imagine a ball trickling about 3 or 4 feet with that hack of Javi Baez, that's exactly what happened, and Howell made a great play on it.
Wow, he sure did make a great play. Of course, the surface is wet. Big swing. He gets off the mound as a left-hander and did not lose his footing at all and delivered a strike. Really good athletic play by Howell. Well, lost his footing at the end, but yeah, I don't think with that kind of swing you'd see ball go that slowly off of his bat.
I mean, that's hard to do. So here's Anthony Rizzo now. Rizzo has singled and struck out twice today.
This is max effort and small results.
Boy, Baez plays hard. That's one of the things that Rick Renteria and his staff have been most impressed with. Trying to get better, taking every plate appearance very seriously as a learning opportunity. That one skips in the dirt, and Coghlan advances to third. We've seen a lot of that this afternoon. My goodness.
Again, it does not take the hop that Gutierrez looking for, and that ball was about a 56-foot off-speed pitch.
Rizzo bounces that one past Gordon. Coghlan scores, and it's a 7-3 Dodger lead. Second hit of the afternoon for Anthony Rizzo and his 74th RBI of the season.
hanging breaking ball. And again, he's got his hands so over the plate, but keeps him back. Putting the ball in play at the right place at the right time for a team that strikes out a lot. We saw the inning before, first and third, nobody out. Couldn't score a run, so the Cubs get a run back.
The pinch hitter now will be the right-handed swinging Mike Olt. Been a tough year altogether for the young third baseman, who was given the starting opportunity at third. Struggled through the All-Star break and slowly lost more and more playing time to Luis Valbuena, who has hit with power since the break.
Did he come over here from Texas in the Garza trade? I believe he came over from Texas, but the third baseman that everybody's talking about in the farm system for the Cubs is Bryant.
Right.
Bryant had a monster season and didn't get called up, didn't have to be called up, not on the roster. Certainly future's bright for him.
And Old lines into left. So a walk and a pair of singles on J.P. Howell's watch here in the 7th. And now it'll bring up Luis Valbuena. Yeah, the name Chris Bryant is certainly not unfamiliar to Cub fans, and there was quite a bit of conversation on September 1st when he was not among the September call-ups. The USA Today Minor League Baseball Player of the Year, gaudy home run totals, crazy power, yet not a member of the 40-man roster. And to bring him up in September, that would have required putting him on the 40-man.
And they didn't have to. Totally understand it. I think people didn't. They were totally misreading it, thinking it was a money deal. It has nothing to do with the clock. Doesn't matter in September.
Right.
It had a lot to do with putting somebody or losing somebody potentially by taking them off the roster. So the future's still bright for this young man. And I still think that some of the issues in baseball are because we want to see these guys so fast that they're not given the proper time and the amount of at-bats that they need to be successful. And Baez, of course, coming up here and struggling mightily average-wise. We all know about his power. You wonder how that's going to affect him in the offseason and what changes he feels like he has to make going into the next campaign of whether or not he's going to be on the roster from the beginning of the season.
Both bullpens are hot now with runners at first and second and a run in. And the first offering to Valbuena misses well off the corner. Again, you look at the scores through the weekend. The Dodgers win a couple of big lopsided games, yesterday's in particular, and it would appear that each of them played out as laughers. That's not been the case. And certainly not the case this afternoon. Tying run stands in the on-deck circle.
Yeah, the game they scored all those runs, they were down in Greinke's game 4-1 and was able to take advantage of some misplays by the Cubs. And turned it into a big victory. And then yesterday, of course, blew it open.
Yeah, 6-run first, and they really didn't have to look back with Clayton Kershaw on the mound, although it wasn't vintage Kershaw yesterday. I think Clayton Kershaw, not at his best, is still better than about 95% of the league. Two balls and a strike to count to Luis Valbuena.
The bullpen for the Dodgers still a little bit of a question mark when they have to have depth. I think 8 and 9 feels good for them. Their closer Jansen has been pretty good. But they're going to need this part of their ball club when they go deep into the playoffs. Picking up some innings for some guys that may not be able to deliver, like Greinke and Kershaw.
Full count now.
That's to say, if Ryu does not come back at full strength or able to do what they hope he can do.
Alcantara waiting on deck. And the payoff home from Howell. You know, Rick Renteria, who we just saw, is a very patient man. You're not going to get a lot of fire and brimstone from Rick. Not a lot of bluster. He's all substance. And I know that there were those around the Cubs, fans in particular, who felt like this job required more of a celebrity manager. And speaking personally, I think they got the perfect guy. There's still some growing pains here. Out to right for Kemp. Rizzo will tag up in advance, and there are 2 away with runners at the corners.
One thing they definitely need is some stability, and they've gone through a slew of managers in a relatively short period of time, and they would love to be able to settle in and develop and keep some of these players and get back to winning, which this city desperately would love to have that back in their good fortune, winning baseball.
Let's face it, managing in the big leagues has changed in the last decade. Here's Alcantara now with runners at the corners and 2 gone. With all the information that's out there for the public's consumption and more awareness over, let's call them esoteric baseball numbers, the manager that doesn't apply some of that intel is the one that's vulnerable. Because fans are just as educated these days as some player development people. So if you're not playing an overshift, or if you choose to do things in a more traditional fashion, you have to answer to that. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but you have to be prepared to answer as to why. We asked Rick Renteria about that before the game. Because you have such a young infield, do you perhaps not play the overshift or not do things as strategic as you would elsewhere? In other words, just want kids to play. He said, no, we're doing this the same way we would if we have a veteran infield in the middle of a pennant chase. We're applying all that intel. Two balls and a strike, the count to Alcantara. A tough balance and a kind of a win now culture that's coming here for the Cubs. A drive to left, and that one is gone. Oh, we got a ball game here today, folks. Of the year for Alcantara, and the Cubs are as close as they've been since the first pitch of the afternoon.
That one didn't need any wind, that's for sure. Sun comes back out and momentarily, and this pitch is crushed. Two-seamer that does not go in the right spot. Couple pitches that weren't called for strikes. Got him.
Dodger bullpen has put the Cubs right back in play. A 1-run game as we take a quick timeout. a 1-run game now after the 3-run home run by Alcantara. Another Dodger pitching change as J.P. Howell labored through his end of the 7th. 2/3 of an inning allows 4 earned runs. And Brandon League will be pressed into duty here with 2 gone in the 7th inning. Pitch to Chris Valenka is grounded to shortstop. Rojas has got it, and a couple of pitchers combine on a troubling bottom of the 7th, one that's brought the Cubs right back into the game. At bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. Get live look-ins, instant replay, scores, stats, audio, free MLB.TV game of the day, and more. Download on the App Store or visit MLB.com today. Well, both managers certainly exercising the rights that come along with September roster expansion. The new pitcher for Chicago is right-hander Justin Grimm. Grimm making his 70th appearance of the season here this afternoon, and he'll get the bottom of the order. 8-9, then the top of the order for the Dodgers in the 8th.
Fastball 90 plus, you saw there at 94. Two-seamer with some movement. 81 mile an hour curveball. That's slider action, about 85 miles an hour.
Drew Gutierrez sends a fly ball out to left center. Coghlan yielding to Alcantara. So an opportunity now for Andre Ethier. Ethier making that transition this year from a everyday full-time player to somebody who's been put into picking his spots, and they're not necessarily spots he would have picked. I think Andre would prefer being out there every day, but he does understand the glut of talent that's in the Dodger outfield and has done his best to adapt to a platoon role. Andre Ethier is the last player still around from that 2008 Cubs-Dodgers Division Series matchup. 2 balls and no strikes, the count to Ethier.
For the Dodgers, they certainly, because you have this scenario play out, it definitely gives you more strength and numbers and options, even if it's ideal for every player. National League club, of course, is going to use more players in a game than an American League style game because of the pitcher and pinch hitters.
3 balls and no strikes from Justin Grimm, and I have to revise my 2008 Division Series note because Matt Kemp was around for that too. They're the only 2 position players still left.
I find it interesting, and now we move into different eras of baseball, and then we talked about the numbers and analytics and information, but how about the fact that we just don't have your prototypical pinch hitter anymore, the guy that comes off the bench, that's all he's known for, that the club keeps, and now you're asking younger players to do it, or in some cases veterans who would like to be playing every day. But there isn't that guy on one team that you can think of that's all he does anymore. The guy that has a lot of pinch hits and is perfected.
Called strike 3 taken by Ethier here. Check that. That's a called strike 2. 3-2 the count to Andre Ethier.
Thought this ball was low.
Play 3 strikes in this league apparently. So a full count to Ethier with D. Gordon waiting on deck.
Well, what that pitch does is expands the zone for the hitter, because now he doesn't want to take anything close when he thinks that was a ball in his mind. So as a pitcher, going right back down there in that area, probably pretty smart thing to do, but he fouled it off.
And there is ball 4. Among those that you thought might have already been rotated out of the game at this point, when the Dodgers had the 7-2 lead, D. Gordon. He's had another big day. His 8th consecutive multi-hit game. He's hit safely in 13 straight overall now. And what with the sloppy track, at the time lopsided nature of the score, you'd guess he'd be a candidate to come out. Not the case, and I'm sure Don Mattingly is happy now that he chose to leave him around. On the ground is second, Valaika to Baez, and they double off an extremely fast man to finish off the top of the 8th. Sponsored by the makers of One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball. And by Chevrolet, find new roads. Non-stop action, heart-pounding excitement, historic performances. Don't miss the 2014 postseason beginning September 30th. One of the Dodgers with plenty of postseason experience is right-hander Brian Wilson. He'll take over here in the home eighth, with Los Angeles hanging on to its one-run lead. Wilson appearing in his 57th game of the year. The recent returns have not been as good as in the beginning of the season, when Brian Wilson looked like the closer from the San Francisco Giants all over again. Sure enough, there's the tying run on base with a first pitch single off the bat of John Baker.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the life at the end of his cutter that was so nasty that he would throw just about every pitch. You see right there, just spinning over the middle of the plate and get a first pitch base hit. When he has been good, it's because his life at the end of the pitch, and what I mean by that is it has nothing to do with radar speed. It has everything to do with what the hitter perceives as a pitch that gets on him quicker than normal.
Matt Caesar making his second plate appearance now after coming on in the middle of the contest. He represents the go-ahead run with nobody out in the home eighth. Bunting. Gonzalez is going to try to get the lead runner, and he does. Well played by Adrian Gonzalez, with Rojas covering for round number one.
Yeah, almost a look like a perfect bunt, but because he did not get a great jump at first, an easier play for a left-handed first baseman coming in and naturally throwing to his arm side to second. Would have been a much tougher play to turn around and throw to first if the runner was D. Gordon-like.
So now with one away and a runner aboard, Wilson has to face the guy who has been the most troubling in Chicago's lineup this afternoon. That's Chris Coghlan, who has a bonus opportunity, one we didn't think possible. The throw over to first gets away from Gonzalez, and now the tying run's in scoring position with one away. Check that. First base umpire Jerry Davis is waving Caesar back.
Time. He had been called time.
And Rick Renneria wants an explanation. Our best guess was that Chris Coghlan had asked for time because Adrian Gonzalez was totally unprepared to take that throw, which lends you to believe either he or Coghlan had called for time. Yeah, that's indeed the case. And Coghlan waves and misses at strike one. We were talking about Chris Coghlan, and it didn't look like how he would have a chance at another plate appearance to give him a shot at the cycle. Home run, single, double, walk. And as rare as triples are here in this ballpark, as we showed you earlier, even the likes of Mark Grace was able to cash in with one for a cycle. And Gracie not known as a big base runner in his day.
Made more difficult with the runner on first base as well. The Cubs go back to thinking about Puig's play that saved one, possibly two runs, and now this game being a one-run game.
Oh, and 2. Los Angeles took a big lead to the bottom of the 7th, 7-2. Rizzo singled in a run, then the 3-run home run by Alcantara. And again, the big picture storyline for Los Angeles. Winning today, taking the first 3 in this series, would allow Don Mattingly some flexibility for the series finale tomorrow in his starting pitching assignment. He would prefer to make it a bullpen game and bump Dan Herron back to Monday against the Giants. San Francisco trailing by 3.5 at the start of play. They're in San Diego tonight. If the Dodgers hang on to this one and the Padres upend the Giants again at Petco Park, that would be a 4.5 game deficit with only 7 left for San Francisco. Well hit to right, and the Cubs have taken a 1-run lead. Santa Maria. Chris Coughlin, have yourself an afternoon. 4 for 4 with 2 home runs, including the 2-run shot here in the 8th that gives the Cubs their first lead of the day. Javi Baez takes strike 1.
Well, it just doesn't have the depth. See how that cutter just doesn't do anything? It turns into almost a 2-seamer. And the fact that it doesn't have depth and late life at the end, the hitter can square it up. And Wilson just doesn't have the stuff that we've been accustomed to seeing, especially today. And it's cost the Dodgers a couple runs here. 6 runs in the last 2 innings by the Cubs have put them back on top 8-7.
At the start of play today, the Dodger bullpen ranked 19th in ERA, around the middle of the pack in runs allowed. The base on balls have been a big problem for the Dodger bullpen this year. And Don Mattingly has watched it implode this afternoon. Off the end of the bat into shallow right, and Gordon retreats on it to make the catch for round number 2. When LA bats trailing in the 9th, imagine saying that on a day like today when we thought the Dodgers were going to run away and hide. When they bat trailing in the 9th, they'll have Puig, Gonzalez, and Kemp. Here's Anthony Rizzo now.
See Wilson trying to throw more breaking balls. Trying to do whatever he can to keep the hitter off balance. I would think this would be a pretty good at bat if the cutter he throws does not cut. Anthony Rizzo.
One and one.
Well, they had Jansen up. I think if they'd have got to this point right here and the run hadn't scored, they were going to definitely bring in Jansen for a 1+ inning save. That's how important the scales of this game would affect the next few games for the Dodgers.
So it's a different scenario than the one we just posed for the Giants. If LA is unable to come back today, and the Giants beat the Padres in San Diego, it's down to just a 2.5 game deficit. And I'm sure the Giants, who arrived early into the ballpark at Petco today, have this one on the TV. Third base coach Tim Flannery is running around the visitors clubhouse with a sanitary sock tied to his head, trying to rally the world's greatest jam band into another big finish. The NL West is far from over.
You speak from a little experience, I take it.
A little. Cold strike taken by Rizzo. After Adrian Gonzalez's second home run that capped off a 4-run third, the Dodgers had a 6-1 lead. Looked like they were just headed right for the finish line today. Here's ball 4. Actually, that hit him. That's a 2-2 pitch that hits Anthony Rizzo.
Breaking ball on the back foot.
Yep.
Up the toe. Padres have been, that's not a fun team to play against because of their pitching. They just have not scored enough runs consistently to be in the mix, but their pitching has been so good that it gets them and keeps them in every game. If they can find some offense for next year, they're another one of those teams that could make a turnaround.
Yeah, I don't think any of the Giants take the Padres lightly. I mean, they're all postseason games down the stretch. When you're chasing, as the Giants are, yes, they've got a piece of that wild card, but they'd love that division win to try to avoid the do or die scenario of a wild card game. A big swing and a pass and a miss by the pinch hitter Junior Lake. A ball and a strike from Brian Wilson. At the start of the afternoon, when trailing entering the 8th inning, the Cubs had been 2-71. This kind of thing has not happened very often this year. Two balls and a strike to Junior Lake, batting with 2 runs in and a runner aboard. 2 gone here in the 8th. Again, the Dodgers have their 2, 3, 4 batters in the 9th inning. Puig, Gonzalez, and Kemp. And Rondon ready to do the pitching.
Those are 6 big runs late in the game that can't be happy if you're the Dodgers. The game well in hand, 7-2.
Wilson's 2-2 pitch is lined into left center field. Rizzo has to hurry to get back. Runners at first and second now with 2 away.
Seen Puig do this a few times. Come up looking like he might throw to the lead base and comes firing behind the runner, trying to catch him.
Here comes Don Mattingly, and he's got the hook in his pocket. He will make his 6th pitching change of the afternoon. We'll be right back. made as baseball's postseason moves to America's new sports network, Fox Sports 1, your new home for baseball's National League Division and Championship Series beginning October 3rd. Carlos Frias will try to record this final out in what's been a very troubling eighth and give the Dodgers a one-run deficit to work with when they go to the ninth. Luis Valbuena, the batter. If you're just tuning in, Chicago scored 4 in the 7th and 2 in the 8th here on the home run by Chris Coghlan to take their first lead of the game. And with 2 on and 2 away, Frias tries to retire Luis Valbuena here on top 0-2.
Frias got a good arm, natural sink to those fastballs. You see him trying to start it inside to get that front door sinker action. Curveball has real good depth, 80 miles an hour. He'll throw that. He's got a changeup and a two-seamer. See if we see that curveball right here, 0-2. Looks like they're going to go up, climb the ladder. Never really liked that pitch unless it's something that is in your repertoire that you naturally do. That's a tough pitch for a young pitcher to try and get an area where a lot of bad things can happen. Of course, that becomes just a waste pitch. He missed 3 or 4 feet from the target. But I know the purpose is to change the eye level of the hitter. Primarily
2 balls and 2
that.
strikes.
Yeah, primarily for that, to break something down. But see now, that quadrant right there was so far away from each other, it has no purpose to the hitter. The hitter doesn't see that pitch. He sees that pitch so much easier that if you can throw a pitch up and he swings and misses or takes for a ball, then you follow it with a curveball up, that has a better chance of effectiveness. So in essence, he just wasted 2 pitches to get the count even.
A swing and a miss by Valbuena. So Frias retires the side, not before the damage is done. This comeback started in the 7th. The big 3-run home run by Alcantara brought him within a run. Chris Coghlan's second home run of the ballgame delivers the Cubs' first run of the day to the 9th. Chicago on top by a run. Has had some kind of afternoon. A pair of home runs, a 4-for-4 line. And that last home run, the 2-run shot against Brian Wilson, putting the Dodgers behind the 8 ball today. Amazing that a first-place team headed for the postseason does not have a single comeback when trailing after 8 this year.
Yeah, that is shocking to me. 0-55. I know the game has changed with relievers. Power arms coming out of the pen. Speaking of power arms, this guy has one. You're going to see fastballs upwards of 97 miles an hour at times with a pretty good slider to boot.
Puig, Gonzalez, and Kemp for Los Angeles down a run as the Cubs have turned it over to their closer Hector Rondon here in the 9th. You saw the note on Rondon earlier as Puig tried, oh wow, and did check his swing. My heavens. Really? More than one guy on the Cubs bench yelling if he hits it, it's a double. Again, the note on Rondon, he's converted his last 11 save chances. This is his 60th appearance of the year, 25 of 29 altogether. Two and two to Puig.
See, this is one area in teams that are struggling, I think you still got to have and find a closer for the future, and somebody that can lock down the games that you're meant to win, to have a good feeling at the end of the game. And I think for Rondon and the Cubs, they've got some potential of being a pretty good bullpen with some of their arms. Now, can they find that starter's strength, and whether they go out in the free market, free agency to get it, will be seen.
Full count now. 3 balls and 2 strikes to Yasiel Puig. You almost forget about what a huge afternoon Adrian Gonzalez has had because his damage came early when it looked like the Dodgers were off to the races. 2 home runs, 5 RBIs in his first 2 plate appearances today. Here's the payoff home to Puig. On the ground to second. Valaika to Rizzo, and the Dodgers are down to their final 2 outs today. It's almost like you could hold a mirror up to your scorecard today, John. The Dodgers innings 1 through 3. 6 runs on 6 hits with a couple of dingers. The last 2 innings for the Cubs, 6 runs on 6 hits, 2 dingers.
Yeah, that's going to sting more for the Dodgers, obviously, if they don't tie it up or come back and win it.
A ball and no strikes to Gonzalez. Fading into shallow left for Coghlan. 2 away in the 9th.
That's a fastball that just beats Gonzalez to the barrel of the bat. He's hit 2 of these out of the ballpark today, but that one had some life on it that just couldn't get the barrel of the bat out quick enough, and therefore a lazy fly ball to left field.
A big crowd this afternoon. They have stuck around through the rain. They stuck around through a lull on the field. It looked like their Cubs were put away done today. On their feet in anticipation of the final out. 1-1 to Matt Kemp. If Rondon hangs on for this final out, it's a 3-game lead for the Dodgers over the Giants in the NL West. LA down to its last strike. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Rendon does a great job with his mechanics staying back and really being behind every pitch he's thrown, fastball or slider.
And that'll do it. A 1-2-3 ninth by Rendon caps a brilliant come-from-behind win for the Chicago Cubs. Without question, our Game Changer profile brought to you by T-Mobile, official sponsor of Game Changers, and the Game Changer today, Chris Coghlan, 4 for 4 with 2 home runs, including the game winner in the last of the 8th.
Sign him up. Get him a long-term deal. He had a great game and certainly one you'll never forget. 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and a big come-from-behind win for the Cubs.
The Cubs upend the Dodgers, 8-7 the final score. LA's lead in the West is 3. Let's send it to our Fox Sports studios. Ryan Field, Eric Karros, and the big hurt, Frank Thomas.